like the property type crimes, the car burglaries and things like that. The car burglaries.
We did have a rash of those, didn't we?
But those went down a little bit. But you're talking about credit card, check fraud, counterfeit money. Those things have all went up a little bit. So you're talking about the
counterfeit check crowd?
No. Check frauds and counterfeit money.
Counterfeit money.
People are
still doing that counterfeit money stuff.
Yeah. We had a pretty rash of that. It seems like around the holidays is when you get a lot of it. And
I imagine
we had a rash of that here. So those things, and then you're also looking into the reports, the phone scams and things like that, where people are getting victimized by those. Those have gone up a little bit, and I don't know, those we preach on that. Just hang up on those people. Don't give them any information. Don't push any buttons that they want you to push or anything like that. They know what they're doing on the other end, and just hang up on them. And if you get a call from your credit card company, hang up on them and call your credit card company directly. And they're more than likely they're going to tell you it was a scam and we weren't calling you, because they're not going to call you and ask for the information that they already have. So,
and believe me, they have it.
Yeah, they have it. So just protect yourself out there, and don't believe, if it's too good to be true, then it's probably not real. And it's always good to fact check that. And like I said, if you get calls from your bank or anybody else, or, there's a swindle going on out there where people will call and they somehow know that you might have a grandkid or a nephew that's on vacation in another state or another country, and somehow they've got that information, and they will call a grandparent and say, hey, this is, little Johnny. I've been arrested down here in Colorado or wherever it's at, because they know they're in Colorado and the grandma knows he's in Colorado. So why wouldn't you believe him? So they end up wiring a couple $1,000s to this person's account, hang up the phone, call little Johnny back and make sure and kind of find out the right way, and don't just take it for granted. So.
Well, and that's people older than me will fall for that. But I think word is spreading through the telemarketing community and fraud community, not to call divine. You get him because I get really nasty with them. I call them all kinds of names, cuss at them, and they hang up on me.
Yeah. and we do get that too, where they actually, some of these,
they're threatening. They try to threaten you.
They get some of the older people, and they try to threaten them and get kind of vocal with them on the phone and everything, and it kind of scares them into giving them the money up, and we do, we take the reports. We do, encourage filing with the FBI. They have a report line for things like that, because we've tracked a couple IP numbers on computers, way above my knowledge, but they're coming back out of places like Russia, and they're not even in the country and things like that. So,
well, I was going to say, some of them obviously English is their second language.
Yeah,
and I don't spare them either. I'm not a big multicultural guy. I should say that I'm not a. That's not what I'm trying to say. Is that I am an equal opportunity insulter. So I'll gross them out too.
Yeah.
And they're. Some of those folks, some of the folks again who have English as a second language, some of them, at least in my experience, have been the ones that are most aggressive and threatening. To which I rise to the occasion every time. I kind of look for them to call sometimes.
They have nothing to lose, and probably, no, they don't. They'll call 100 people and 99 of them will hang up or cuss at them like you do, and. But it's that one person that's going to say, okay, I believe you. Here's my $20,000 or whatever. And all of a sudden they're $20,000 richer by making 100 phone calls.
Sure.
And
my mom's still alive. And she's very well, by the way. But she could fall for something like that. Somebody her age.
It affects the older community a lot more, because
she remembers getting calls during my youth. Well, we got Mike up here at the station. You might want to come down and get him again.
But yeah, those in the area of any crimes that are going up, it's those the check frauds, the counterfeits, the scams. Those things have gone up, and it's going up because of the technology that you have to commit those types of crimes. And it is. So, and it's tough, and the best way is just don't be a victim to a lot of that stuff, and just, like I said, just hang up on them, or especially those scammers, just hang up on them, because they can wipe your bank account out real quick.
Right, real fast. Yeah. It took me quite a while to trust ordering anything online, even Amazon, and I try not to do it. I make a real strong effort always to buy local. Local people support this radio station. I mean, their advertising dollars support this radio station. So I'm going to go online to save a quarter? I don't think so. That's not what I'm going to do. And I'm sure as hell not going to go down to Des Moines and buy a car thinking I'm going to save money, because you don't. I mean, Shimcat, Kemna, and the Johnson family out of Ford Dodge Ford will give you just as good a deal, or and frankly better deal, because they'll stand with you more than any Des Moines car dealership will. So I'm going to buy my cars here in town. And
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess.
I don't think I've ever bought a car outside of Ford Dodge, to be honest with you.
Well, I did, but I was living outside of Ford Dodge at the time, but not living in Ford Dodge. I don't think I ever did. I support the local economy. Come on.
I do got to give credit to some of those credit card companies, though, because I've had my card number hacked or taken a couple times, but they put their fraud alerts on them, and they see one of them was somebody was buying books at Harvard.
Yeah.
So the lady calls, did you just buy like $1,000 worth of books at Harvard? And I'm like, well, no, I went to Iowa Central and State College, so I'm not in Harvard.
Never been there.
Never been there. So I got to give them credit on that, and that's happened a couple of times where they've been able to stop that before it actually got into my account. So.
I would encourage everybody to check your credit card statement, because there's such a thing as I forget what they call it now, but you might miss a credit card purchase of $30.
Yeah.
You know, but these credit card people will rob you of $30, and they'll rob 20 other people of $30.
It's a quick payday for them.
It's a big day for them. And that happened with me, and it turned out it was like $30-$40, and I called the credit card company. I said, what's this? And they tracked it to China.
Yeah.
A $30 charge from somebody in China, and they wiped it off my credit card bill, of course.
Like you said, you're not gonna, a lot of people won't notice those little $20-$30 charges.
I wouldn't have usually.
And then they do that to 200 people or something. They're making a killing in less than an hour's worth of work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If they can get it done, and it's a different world.
Oh yeah.
It's a different world. By the way, I got the security camera system that you showed me.
Did you?
Yes, I do. It's still sitting on my island in my kitchen, but I got it.
It's pretty simple. If I can figure out how to put it up, you can figure it out.
Well, I've looked at it. It seems to be pretty
straightforward.
easy. But that's something we didn't have a short time ago. Security cameras. I mean, that's a great.
Oh, that stuff has come along so far. I mean, I remember when I started being working in investigations, 20 years ago, we'd go to a quick shop or someplace that, had a theft or got robbed, and you get their VHS video, and it was so grainy and black and white, and you couldn't make out anybody in it. And now you can go out to Menards or Target or wherever and buy a cheap security system, and the picture's crystal clear.
Very clear.
And there's no doubt about who you're looking at when you're looking at it. If you can't put a name on that person, it's just because you don't know that person. It's not because there's not enough there to recognize them if you know them. So,
do we have porch pirates much in Fort Dodge?
We didn't really have a whole lot of issues with that. That went on a lot around the country. I know that was a big issue with a lot of cities, but we didn't really have that. I think we might have had a couple reports of that, but nothing major. Thank God. I know I had something on my porch just about every day coming up to Christmas with my wife ordering Christmas presents and stuff like that.
Obviously, I watch the evening news like a lot of people do, and it just amazes me how bold these people are. Yeah. These porch pirates. They've gotten clever, of course. They a lot of times wear masks or hide their face in some way, but others don't, or they forget or something. Look right at the camera, and as you say, the definition of that camera is very, very good.
Oh yeah,
and they walk off with packages.
Yeah.
I saw one the other night. Actually, an attractive woman of about 30 walked off with a package and came back with it in 20 minutes. So she must have talked with somebody.
Oh, really?
Because she looked right in the camera,
Oh.
And then she came back. So whoever she talked to said, if you look right in that camera, they got you. So she came back, put the package back, looked in the camera again. Sorry, little mistake. I thought it was my house, even though I don't live here.
Yeah, they are bold. They are bold.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had that problem.
Yeah, not too bad, not terrible. Like I said, we had a couple reports, and other than that, it wasn't real out of hand, I guess.
Okay, well, that's the good news.
Yeah.
That's good news. Maybe I've asked you this before. I know I asked you in the summertime. If there's a time of the year, you were talking crime statistics, when crime increases, like in the summer months, I would as a non-professional who knows nothing about police work really, except when I watch on cop shows, I would think that the summer months people are more inclined to be out trying to do something wrong.
Well,
rather than this time of year.
And it's not so much that they're out trying to do anything wrong. It's in the summertime, the schools are out, so the kids are off and they're out and about, and they may get into some mischief. It's just a lot of it's a different type of crime. In the summer months, you got a lot more people out and about because it's not cold out and everybody wants to be out and enjoying it. And sometimes you have some drinks and things like that and enjoy that. And that might be a root of something during the winter.
Well, that's just routine disturbing the peace type stuff, though.
And during the winter months, you might have an increase in thefts with people visiting some of the shopping areas around here or whatnot. And people are going to take advantage of you if you leave stuff in your cars while you're going from store to store or going around. So there's a lot more thefts that we take a look at. But I mean, to give you an idea, without looking at the stats, I can't, without looking at the stats, to give you a definite number. There's nothing that stands out that says, yeah, we need to look at this a little bit more during this time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just, you just roll with the seasons kind of thing. So
don't freak out here. I know you just really love talking about the IXP situation, but you are on the board. So I'm just going to ask you, is that a settled issue? Because I keep getting emails that now that we're not going to do a contract, or it's not carved in stone that we're going with IXP or something.
It's not carved in stone. We still have a vote to go on. We have to review the contract that they put in front of us. We're making sure that everything's good with the state and everything and the federal requirements and things like that. So they're not here yet. Nothing's locked in stone. So
okay. So if the contract's right and everything else falls into place,
right, and everything falls into place, and then they vote, the board votes the contract, and
then it takes effect.
If they vote, if they vote for the contract, majority votes for the contract, then it'll take effect.
Okay. We our guest, by the way, is Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter here at AM 1400 KPFT. We had a couple of nasty incidents, ugly incidents, really, in the county. Mm-hmm. Recently, there was a young man apparently from Kansas City area who stole a vehicle in Des Moines and was north of town here. And there was some gunshots and he was killed. Now, I watched the news, I think it was last night, where it wasn't sure if this man was.
I think you got two different incidents.
Do I?
Yeah. There was no gunshots in that one.
There was no gunshots in that
one. No, that was no gunshots in that one. That was just from my understanding, that he took the car down in the Des Moines area and was trying to work his way up north, and officers, the car was reported stolen, and the officers in Story County ended up seeing it, and that's when the chase ensued, and then it made its way up to Webster County, and then he wrecked the vehicle and was unfortunately killed.
He was killed in the accident as a result.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did have that wrong. I thought there was...
the other one you're thinking of was the New Year's Eve night when there was an incident out by the 4-H grounds, and deputies tried stopping the vehicle, and there was an exchange of gunfires reported by the sheriff's department, and that individual died due to a gunshot wound. Now, I haven't heard anything as far as whether the officers were involved with the shooting or if it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound or anything like that yet. I'm not, like I said, our agency went out and assisted after the fact, assisted the county and the state that was out there dealing with it. So
that's exactly where I was going with the question. Does the Fort Dodge Police Department have a role in something that happens in our county?
Well, first of all, they were requesting some CERT team officers, some of our tactical officers to come out there. CERT team tactical officers.
And that is?
Special Emergency Response Team.
Okay.
And I think we talked about that in the Citizens Academy. It's a regional tactical group. And right now it's comprised of officers with the Webster County Sheriff's Department and the Fort Dodge Police Department. We did have a Calhoun County deputy who has since retired. And then Jamie Bunting was part of that team as well.
Really?
But anyway, we have a 2080 agreement signed that, so we can go into the county and vice versa. If they need a CERT team, then the call will go out, and they'll go out to all the members, county and PD officers, and then whoever can responds to it and goes out to assist. But yeah, like I said, I've preached it for years. The Fort Dodge PD and the Webster County Sheriff's Department has a great working relationship together. We try to work well together, and we assist each other. They come into town when we have instances that runs our officers short, they'll come into town and help us out and take calls and stuff inside the city. And if they're calling for help outside, we're going to come out and help them. We're not going to let them lay. They have, they have 2 officers on, and one's dealing with a situation up here where he needs some help in the north, and their nearest deputy's down in the southern part of the county. It's going to be a while before they get there, so we're definitely going to go out and help them. So.
Well, we are a rural county.
Absolutely.
We don't have that many. I don't know how many people are officers in the sheriff's department. Do you have any idea?
Former officers?
No, officers working at the sheriff's officers working at the sheriff's office now. You know how many people they have over there?
Oh, you mean deputies?
Deputies, yeah.
Oh, I think they were at 16, and I don't want to say wrong, but I think they got 2 more, so they might be up to 18. I could be totally off on that. I don't know.
Right.
We have what? 40? They've changed some faces over there just as much as we have in here recently with some retirements and things. Sergeant Heesh just retired last month. 21st was his last day. So
who did?
Jason Heesh.
Sergeant Heesh. He did.
Yeah.
God, has he got 20 on already?
He's got 30 on.
30.
He's the same age I am.
Wow.
And we have 40. Yeah, you're asking. We have 40 officers.
Does that include you or?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. You don't want to include me as an officer?
No, well, I didn't know if you were management or you just counting the rank and file or what.
I am counted, so
numbers. So you're telling me the police department survived even though Bob Thode retired? Because we all thought it was going down when Thode retired.
Yeah, we've survived.
Yeah, well, Bob's the number 1 guy. Anyway, Roger Porter's been our guest. Thank you, Roger.
You bet, Mike. Thanks.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
I don't understand what is preventing you from laughing this off and giving me a big hug.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 232. Yeah, pretty cold, and it's going to stay cold for a while. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The news, the obituaries, coming up as Divine Intervention continues.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in Iowa's future. We support Iowa's youth, encourage ag innovations, and nurture new business opportunities in rural communities. We're a century strong and growing. To learn more, contact your local county farm bureau.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa's economy is soaring, but lawmakers have work to do to ensure struggling Iowans find success, including Iowans with a criminal record. Radio Iowa's OK Henderson reports.
Reynolds delivered the annual Condition of the State message to lawmakers today. She asked them to set the wheels in motion so Iowa voters can pass a constitutional amendment so a felon's voting rights are automatically restored when a felon completes their sentence. Under current practice, felons who've done their time and paid their fines must apply to the governor to have their voting rights restored. Making this change is all about second chances, the governor said. Reynolds also touted creation of a new program at the state's medium security prison in Newton. Inmates would learn construction skills there by building houses that will be trucked out to rural communities. Go to radioiowa.com to learn more about the governor's 2019 legislative agenda. It includes her call for an $89 million increase in state support of K-12 public schools. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says it's no surprise fellow Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King is being punished for his comments about white supremacy. Grassley notes Republican House leaders have stripped King of his committee assignments, and some Democrats are calling for King's censure.
That's entirely within the view of the House of Representatives. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, I've seen that sort of punishment done by the House, both censure as well as being deprived of committee.
On Monday, King was removed from 3 panels, the Agriculture and Small Business Committees, as well as the powerful Judiciary Committee. Grassley says he understands the actions of House GOP leaders who say King's remarks won't be tolerated.
I'll have to accept their judgment on it. I don't disagree with the judgment, and I'm not surprised that House Republicans took this step. It's happened in the past when I was a member of the House because a particular member dishonors the chamber.
King says his comments were completely mischaracterized and that booting him from the committees is a political decision that ignores the truth. Yet Grassley and other Republicans are distancing themselves from King.
Under our Constitution, I have to respect their decision, and I strongly disagree with any comments supporting white supremacy. It's offensive, and it's not a view that I hold.
Grassley says while King won't be able to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District in committee action, he'll still be able to voice opinions on any issues that come from those committees when they go before the full House for a vote. A plan that would have built high-end apartments in Fort Dodge was defeated on Monday after heavy disapproval of the project by community members. Only 2 of the 7 council members voted to approve the housing project led by KDG LLC of Columbia, Missouri, that would have built apartments along North 32nd Street. The apartments would have had 108 units to start with, and they would have been priced between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. Council members Nevin Conrad and Lydia Scher voted yes on the project. Council members Dave Flattery, Kim Allstott, Jeff Halter, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voted no. About 100 Fort Dodge residents were at the meeting that opposed the project, and many property owners living within 200 feet of the proposed construction area signed a petition against it. In local sports, St. Edmund basketball hosts Hampton Dumont tonight with radio coverage of the girls' game at 6:15 and the boys following at 7:45 on Sunny 99.7. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down 7 1/4 at 371 1/4. May down 7 1/4 at 379 3/4. July down 7 1/4 cents at 387 1/2. September down 6 1/2 at 391 1/2. March soybeans down 10 1/4 at 893 1/4. May down 10 1/2 at 906 3/4. July beans down 10 1/4 at 919 3/4. August down a dime at 925 1/4. March wheat closed down 3 1/4 at 511. Soybean meal down $2.50 a ton at 309.30. February live cattle up 152 at 126.95. April up 75 at 127.42. January feeder cattle down a dime at 144.75. March up 35 cents at 144.75. February lean hogs up 30 cents at 62.15. April up 12 at 66.95. I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 237. First of all, in the weather, cloudy today, high 35. Overnight, mostly cloudy with a low of 17. Wind chill factor temperature will be closer to 5 to 10 degrees. On Wednesday, tomorrow, we'll have a cloudy sky with a high of 28. Blustery winds once again. Thursday, a chance of snow, mostly cloudy with a high of 29. Friday, snow mainly in the afternoon with a high only of 19. On Saturday, it gets better, patchy blowing snow. It'll be really windy and a high temperature of 9 degrees. On Sunday, sunny and cold, windy again with a high of 2. You know we're going to have a wind chill factor temperature over the weekend. And on Monday, Martin Luther King Day, it'll be sunny with a high of 20 degrees. Right now in Fort Dodge, it's 33 degrees at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Sorry to report the death of Rick Grannon. I knew Rick a long time, good guy. Rick Grannon gone at the age of 66. There will be a celebration of the life of Rick Grannon on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Here in town. Yeah, we used to call him Earl, of course. I guess that was his real name, Earl Richard Grannon. Anyway, I'm sorry that Rick has passed, of course. Richard Dean Kopp has died. He passed away on the 13th at the Friendship Haven. Services for Richard Kopp will be at Gunderson Funeral Home on Thursday the 17th with visitation from 9 a.m. until the service at 11. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 2:40, 33 degrees. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Ever wonder why Europeans seem to speak so many languages? Maybe it's because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away, whether you're learning Spanish, French, or German. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
Using Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons, you can be speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I was amazed that I could start having real-life conversations right away. It was so fast. Now I'm speaking Spanish. Woohoo!
No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, French, or more. You can try Babbel for free. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, Babbel.com, or download the app to try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
We're live on the red carpet, waiting for the next generation Credenz soybean. There he is.
Oh, Ed, look, it's Credenz Liberty Link GT27.
I know, Edna. He's got elite genetics.
You gotta love his 4 bushel per acre yield advantage.
And he's both Liberty and glyphosate herbicide tolerant.
Definitely the year's hottest performer. Ask your Credenz retailer about the new Credenz Liberty Link GT27 soybeans.
Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and yes, we're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Assisting me today, once again, is Dr. Dean Stansel of Southern Methodist University. He's an economist, and he's with the O'Neill Center. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm really good. What is the O'Neill Center?
The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is a research center in the Cox Business School at SMU, Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And one of our alums, William O'Neill, is the one who founded the center. He's also the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. And we study the impact of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. Our website is o'neillcenter.org. That's ONEIL.
All right, let's go right to Investors Business Daily, a piece that Dr. Stansel sent me. The name of this piece is "It's a Shutdown, Not Armageddon," and I chuckle because I've done a little work in the communications field over the years, and the amount of hysteria that has been ginned up over Donald Trump in the last 2 years has just been ridiculous. And we are living in a time where innuendo is at its height. I mean, all the things coming out of the Mueller investigation that are unverified, they're just report. It's just absurd, all the things that are printed in some of the media. And certainly the major networks, they've just gone completely crazy. So the article that we're going to talk about first is "It's a Shutdown, Not Armageddon." I've read it, Dean, of course, and it's on my Facebook page, by the way, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. What does Investors Business Daily mean? It's a shutdown, not Armageddon.
Sure. So ultimately, the economic impact of this should be virtually nil, because ultimately, just based on past experience, what's going to happen is that now, granted, in the short term, some folks are going to miss paychecks and already have, but ultimately they're going to get repaid.
That's a key point. Let's say that again. The folks who have not yet been paid and have missed a paycheck, sooner or later, they're going to be reimbursed. They'll get paid for every day they didn't work. Make me a government employee and get going with a shutdown. I'll go home for a month.
So the cost to the government really won't change, and so it's not going to. Also, for people saying, "Well, this will save us some money," it really won't. And ultimately, if you think that what these folks would have been doing had they gone to the office to work, if you think that's valuable, well, we're paying them and not getting that value. Now, of course, some people think, well, it's better that they're not in there screwing up the economy or what have you. So it depends on which agency we're talking about, I suppose. But there's a loss of input in terms of their productiveness at the office, but they'll get reimbursed, and sure, it'll create some short-term hardships for these people, no doubt. And so we don't want to minimize that. But in terms of the economy as a whole, it's all going to come out in the wash essentially because they'll give them back pay, or they have in the past. I can't imagine they would do it differently this time.
Oh, they won't do it. I mean, the Democrats won't hear of it. I mean, that's one of their primary constituencies is federal and state workers. And let's be even more honest here. And this is my analysis, not Dr. Stanzel's, but I can't say most, but a lot of state and federal jobs are created for campaign workers. After the campaign is over, they need something to do. They invested months, maybe a year of their lives in getting somebody elected, and they want to be rewarded, and they are rewarded. There's so many, especially at the federal level, there are so many bureaus and departments. It's staggering. And it's easy to take some of your campaign volunteers, your campaign workers, and give them a nice cushy job for a few years at the very least. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Our guest is Dr. Dean Stansel, an economist of Southern Methodist University.
Right.
Paul Krugman.
In a nutshell, the idea is that this is not going to destroy the economy.
It's not going to destroy the economy. It's not going to harm us.
Temporary blip, but we're going to be about the same as we would have been with or without this in the medium run, even not even just the long run. But it'll all make itself up later.
Paul Krugman is one of my favorite professionals. He's an economist who uses his credential, in this case, a PhD in economics.
And a Nobel Prize. He uses all that to justify his liberal leanings. He is a New York Times columnist for many years, and he has declared that this shutdown can be understood only as a big, beautiful libertarian experiment. And we were just talking about the economy not really being harmed here. Is there an underlying lesson here? I mean, Krugman may be onto something here. No, I don't think he's really onto something here. I think he kind of misunderstands. Certainly conflating Trump with libertarians is a bit of a misnomer there.
Or Republicans, yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah. So he's as usual. Look, he's got to put together. I don't know if he does one a week or two a week. He's got to put together a couple of these, and he likes to throw bombs at the libertarians and Republicans when he can. And I think he's overstated his case a little bit here.
Well, Paul looks good on television. He sounds good in audio, but he's really a leftist political operative. And when I said he's an example of one of my favorite things in politics, the woods are full of these people. They will come out, and I'm Dr. Such and Such, and I'm a sociologist, or I'm Paul Krugman, and I'm a PhD in economics, and they will tell you then the liberal line. They're almost cookie cutter people who really are talking about the same thing. They're giving us the same message. And then the newspapers pick that up. Well, according to Dr. Such and Such, or according to Dr. So-and-so, this is the way our lives are. And because they're professionals, some believe them. And I hate to say this, but the academia has been perverted for a long time by people just like this. And yes, it happens on the conservative with right wingers as well. It's almost as if we can't look to our universities anymore with any certainty, and with the exception of Dr. Dean Stansel, of course, in Southern Methodist University. But Dean will tell us he's a libertarian, and he kind of sees things through that filter.
Absolutely.
But and so does Paul Krugman. So anybody who quotes Paul Krugman, understand that they are quoting a left-wing political operative. I'm not saying, by the way, that's not to say he's not an American or something like that. He's perfect. In our democracy, he's certainly allowed to be a liberal. There's no law against it. I would fight hard if anybody tried to make a law against being a liberal. But understand he's a liberal first and an economist second. What else can we say about Paul Krugman in this article?
Well, one thing that he doesn't really get into that I think needs to be understood to put this into context is that about 2/3 of the federal budget is what we call entitlement programs. That's Social Security, Medicare, those sorts of things. Those are basically on autopilot. What we're dealing with here is the fact that the Congress didn't pass and the president didn't sign into law the appropriations bills, the spending bills for the discretionary spending, the stuff that they do approve every year. But that's only about a third of the budget. So that's the stuff that's being primarily affected here. So if you want to say that libertarians only want to shrink government by 1/3, well, I'd say you're a bit underestimating us. But anyway, so that's something that he missed out on here. He threw out some examples of legitimate, I guess you could call it hardship, in the sense that I think he talked about the Food and Drug Administration, where there's been some issues with them doing less work than they otherwise would. There's still some things that they are doing. Talked about the Small Business Administration. And one thing that I picked up on that, I can't remember if it was this, he talked about federal checks to farmers aren't going out. That's not entirely accurate, but there are some disruptions there, in the sense that the farmers who did not file their, I forgot what they're called, their harvest reports or something.
Yeah, crop reports. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones who did it on early or whatever are getting their checks, but the ones who didn't, because the offices are closed, they can't go in and file their reports. But I think they're going to extend the deadline to know. Again, like with the other stuff, in the end, everyone will be the same financially than they would have otherwise. But there are some disruptions there to the agriculture industry that I'm sure a lot of your listeners are dealing with and frustrated with. They quoted a farmer in here about, I don't need a stinking wall. That doesn't help my harvest at all. So yeah, there's a lot of politics going on here. Of course, I mean that's really the whole reason for the holdout is over this notion of a wall or a barrier, whatever you want to call it, across the southern border.
Farmers are usually the last ones who are worried about illegal immigration. They take full advantage of illegal immigration. Believe me, a lot of them do. I mean, it's cheap labor. They like that.
Good for the economy.
Yeah, what's that?
Mike said it's good for the economy.
Good for cheap labor is good for the economy. Not very good for the workers, but it's pretty good for the economy, I guess.
For their next best alternative is what though? Is living in a poor country under worse conditions, right? To us, it seems like they're getting exploited, but to them, you're right, it's just like sweatshops. If you take away sweatshops, then they've got to go to their next best opportunity, which is, of course, worse because they chose to sign up for those conditions. But we're getting off track ahead.
Yes, we are. And that's a slightly twisted brand of morality you're displaying there anyway, Tina. Yes, it is my opinion. But,
your show.
My show, yeah. In this recent article on Paul Krugman, by the way, is Reason Magazine put out by the Cato Institute?
No, it's put up by a think tank called the Reason Foundation.
The Reason Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. We have someone from the Cato Institute quoted in this article. He is Jeff Myron. Am I pronouncing his name correctly?
He's actually an economics professor at Harvard, believe it or not, and affiliated with Cato. So yeah.
And who else do we know who was affiliated with Cato? Yes, our guest, Dr. Dean Stanzel.
Long time ago.
These shutdowns, according to the professor, distract from the serious conversations that need to be had about fiscal reform and the size of government. Now, the article goes on to say that what President Trump is doing is trying to fulfill a campaign promise. That's exactly what he's trying to do. And the wall, I believe, is a symbol to those who would invade our country that, listen, we're going to take steps to prevent that. We are all about allowing immigration, but it must be controlled, and we must be in control of it. The word obviously has gone out south of the border that all you have to do is show up at our border and you have a better way of life. Dr. Stanzel alluded to that just a few minutes ago. That just can't be. It'll overwhelm our social services structure, and it will flood the labor market with cheap labor, and that affects the very people who elected Donald Trump, by the way.
But on the other hand, these people pay taxes too, right?
Yes, they do.
So you say it overwhelms our social services or what have you, but when they come in here and they buy stuff, they pay sales tax and they pay income taxes in some cases, and they pay property taxes indirectly. So it's not as if it's a complete loss in the sense that we just have to pay for a lot of new stuff and no money to fund it. There's money coming in from them, and they're doing jobs that in a lot of cases people here don't want to do.
Well, I don't have your skills as a researcher, but do a little work on this. I wonder if the amount of taxes paid by illegal workers comes close to covering the expenses that they bring with them.
I think that it does. I've read something on this, and part of the issue is that if you're an illegal immigrant, then you don't qualify for welfare benefits. So
somehow they wind up getting it anyway, especially at hospitals and medical clinics.
There are exceptions where there's fraud or abuse or just errors made, but according to the letter of the law, they're not supposed to get that stuff if they're not here legally. So yeah, it is a messy issue, and the whole, as you pointed out, this is a campaign promise that the president's trying to fulfill that a lot of people presumably are in favor of. I don't happen to be one of them, as you know, but yeah, hopefully they'll get their act together and move on from this idea and find other ways to solve what they perceive as the problem here with the illegal immigration, and find ways that are more cost effective to deal with this.
Well, and the Democrats are no better. They know what this is. They know Trump's trying to fulfill a campaign pledge, and they're being even more petty than Donald Trump and just denying it. I mean, $5 billion in the federal budget, it's not going to kill anybody. Or they could compromise for something quite less, and I'm sure Trump would take it. They're just determined to embarrass him. That's all.
Right.
And the real business of our government is being ignored. Dr. Dean Stansel is our guest at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Dr. Stansel has done a great job of research for this segment. Let's go on to an article in the New York Times. It's also on my Facebook page at AM 1400 KVFD. I forgot about this quote from Ronald Reagan. It says, government, and this is Ronald Reagan in his first inaugural address, and I remember him saying this. I hadn't thought about it in years. Government, according to Ronald Reagan in his first inaugural address, is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. And that has been the Republican ideology practically ever since. Not everyone, because Republicans want their pork as well. But it is the rallying cry of Republicans that government is not the solution, it's the problem.
But the other thing Krugman points out is that somehow they've never followed through on the radical downsizing of government that their ideology calls for. Those are his words. And that's the frustrating thing for people who want smaller government. Is the rhetoric is there and has mostly been there with the various Republican presidents we've had, but the reality is that, and there've been academic studies on this looking at the issue of divided government, right? So if you go back to before November, where we had Republicans in the control of the Congress and in the control of the White House, and it seems like they never get as much done when they've got both branches than they do when they can be, I'm talking about those advocates for smaller government, than they can do when they're like an opposition party, right? With the contract with America, a long time ago, I know, but it was a good example where they were this strong opposition party actually trying to eliminate whole agencies, right? You can imagine that now that these guys have, they campaigned on repealing Obamacare. They couldn't get it done with a Republican in both the White House and both Congress. So the change now with the Democrats taking back at least the House, so who knows? It might lead to a more active Republican Party in terms of trying to shrink the impact of government on society, and so that could be the one kind of good thing to come out of this, as opposed to just getting more spending, which may be what we end up getting.
Well, I would hope so, but you don't know. I mean, I've talked with you many years, especially when John Boehner was Speaker of the House in Ohio. John was always talking about less government, smaller government, less taxes. But if you looked what he was doing for the Southwestern District of Ohio, he seemed to be doing something different. As a matter of fact, Rand Paul really seems to be the only, one of the very few elected politicians who actually practice what he preaches. I understand he's recently had a setback in his own philosophy, but Rand has, and it's been my great privilege to speak personally with Senator Paul on a couple of occasions. I'll tell you, he is one sharp guy. That is a deep well there, Senator Rand Paul. Now, I want to warn all farmers here that if you read this article in the New York Times, it's going to mention that the Cato Institute have long denounced farm subsidies as just another form of crony capitalism. Now, before you come out here and burn the radio station down, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to remind you that I have long said that we're a socialist state here in Iowa, that we couldn't exist without massive influxes of federal money into the farm program. We're, again, we have been socialists for a long time. And it seems like we have socialism for some and everybody else goes to work. And that's the way it's been in Iowa since the New Deal, really since the 1930s. Sure. Now, a lot of farmers will point out that a lot of those programs are unnecessary because we now have global trade. Well, now we don't have global trade.
Right.
So,
and as bad as it is in Iowa and other big agriculture states, this is stuff that exists in other industries too, right? So it's a huge problem, not just in ag, but I do think that a lot of times people kind of compartmentalize the ag subsidies as this separate thing that's somehow different from like corporate welfare to the oil industry or something like that. And it's really the same thing, which is kind of what the statement there was alluding to.
Yeah. Dr. Dean Stanzel has been our guest. Dean, thank you as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Michael.
You bet. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
This is Dave Graveline. Be sure to listen to Into Tomorrow right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD. Fort
Your
Dodge.
news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa's economy is soaring, but lawmakers have work to do to ensure struggling Iowans find success, including Iowans with a criminal record. Radio Iowa's OK Henderson reports.
Reynolds delivered the annual Condition of the State message to lawmakers today. She asked them to set the wheels in motion so Iowa voters can pass a constitutional amendment so a felon's voting rights are automatically restored when a felon completes their sentence. Under current practice, felons who've done their time and paid their fines must apply to the governor to have their voting rights restored. Making this change is all about second chances, the governor said. Reynolds also touted creation of a new program at the state's medium security prison in Newton. Inmates would learn construction skills there by building houses that will be trucked out to rural communities. Go to radioiowa.com to learn more about the governor's 2019 legislative agenda. It includes her call for an $89 million increase in state support of K-12 public schools. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says it's no surprise fellow Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King is being punished for his comments about white supremacy. Grassley notes Republican House leaders have stripped King of his committee assignments, and some Democrats are calling for King's censure.
That's entirely within the view of the House of Representatives. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, I've seen that sort of punishment done by the House, both censure as well as being deprived of committee.
On Monday, King was removed from 3 panels, the Agriculture and Small Business Committees, as well as the powerful Judiciary Committee. Grassley says he understands the actions of House GOP leaders who say King's remarks won't be tolerated.
I'll have to accept their judgment on it. I don't disagree with the judgment, and I'm not surprised that House Republicans took this step. It's happened in the past when I was a member of the House because a particular member dishonors the chamber.
King says his comments were completely mischaracterized and that booting him from the committees is a political decision that ignores the truth. Yet Grassley and other Republicans are distancing themselves from King.
Under our Constitution, I have to respect their decision, and I strongly disagree with any comments supporting white supremacy. It's offensive, and it's not a view that I hold.
Grassley says while King won't be able to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District in committee action, he'll still be able to voice opinions on any issues that come from those committees when they go before the full House for a vote. A plan that would have built high-end apartments in Fort Dodge was defeated on Monday after heavy disapproval of the project by community members. Only 2 of the 7 council members voted to approve the housing project led by KDG LLC of Columbia, Missouri, that would have built apartments along North 32nd Street. The apartments would have had 108 units to start with, and they would have been priced between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. Council members Nevin Conrad and Lydia Scher voted yes on the project. Council members Dave Flattery, Kim Allstott, Jeff Halter, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voted no. About 100 Fort Dodge residents were at the meeting that opposed the project, and many property owners living within 200 feet of the proposed construction area signed a petition against it. In local sports, St. Edmund basketball hosts Hampton Dumont tonight with radio coverage of the girls' game at 6:15 and the boys following at 7:45 on Sunny 99.7. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 35. Southwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies tonight, lows level off around 18, high of 28 tomorrow. Chance for snow Thursday and Friday, upper 20s, Thursday, upper teens by Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 34.
Have the talk of the lifetime with the ones you love.
This card asks, what events in our nation's history had an impact on you and how?
Pearl Harbor was on my 10th birthday, December 7th, 1941. That was the start of World War II. I was doing the farm chores with my brother, and the vet came to check our cows and told us all about it. It was a scary time.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Let's think about customization presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty Mutual customizes your auto insurance so you only pay for what you need. So why aren't more things in life customizable? Like, why do I have to pay a full gym membership when I don't even use all the equipment? Like the rowing machine. I don't know about you, but I'm not doing a ton of manual lake travel these days.
Go to libertymutual.com for a customized quote and you could save.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Equal housing insurer.
Take the worry out of winter with a winter weather advisor on KVFD, brought to you by Community Health Center Fort Dodge, offering dental, behavioral health, and general medical assistance for men, women, and children. They're committed to your well-being. Community Health Center. Get to know them. And Creative Cakes, making life sweet with espresso, lunch, gourmet cupcakes, and other sweet treats. Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge. They make life sweet. Listen for the Winter Weather Advisor on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
I don't understand what is preventing you from laughing this off and giving me a big hug.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, Hip Hop Array, AM 1400 KVFD, the Voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Yeah, we are going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. You can join the program by calling 515-955-1400. That's 515-955-1400. I'm hoping that either Representative Ann Meyer or Representative Mike Sexton will call in this hour. Maybe Senator Tim Kreinbrink. I wasn't able, obviously, to get to Des Moines this morning. I was going to go, and I got up, and I was heading out, but the roads were so slick. And by the time the sun came out and the county and city workers were able to get the roads in good condition, it got too late in the day for me. It put me behind on my timetable, so I didn't go, and here I am. Anyway, I have asked Representative Sexton, Senator Kreinbrink, and now Representative Myers. Yes, we can stop saying Representative-elect. I have asked one of them to call with their impression of Governor Reynolds' speech this morning. I've read it. I didn't watch it, but I've read it. It's a pretty standard State of the State speech. She touts that we have plenty of money. Our budget is solid. The things that Republicans like to brag about, and that's a good thing to brag about, by the way. I would be bragging too if we had money in the bank and the budget balanced. So there's always those who want more and more and more. But over time in Iowa, the message the voters are sending is that we don't want to spend a lot of money as we have in the past. We don't want to spend a lot of money as we have in the past. We kind of like the idea of less government and lower taxes. That's the kind of state we turned into. It's not that we have become more racist or narrow or anything like that. We just don't like our money taken by the government. Because if the government takes it, frankly, they're going to find a way to spend it. They'll justify it and try to make it noble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Make it sound noble anyway. But it's really just the government spending money a lot of time. Now, of course, Governor Reynolds has promised to do something about mental health this time around. We're badly in need of something done with mental health. And I hope she follows through with that. We have a big problem out here in the rural areas. We have some sick people, and they need to be taken care of. And as I talk to you right now, that's not happening. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, Mike. It's Representative Ann Meyer.
At long last, I can
District
call
9.
you Representative Ann Meyer. I don't, and I'm delighted that you called in. I was just talking about you and the Scrapster down there, and Senator Kreinbrink. How does it feel? Your second day as a representative?
It's exciting. I am honored every time I walk in the building. I'm so grateful to be entrusted with this huge responsibility, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to make things good for District 9, Fort Dodge, and our state.
I know you will, Ann. I was just talking about the Governor Reynolds speech just a moment ago, and about mental health. Now, healthcare is your field. I hope that mental health care is something that is given consideration, and something actually more than consideration. I'm really hoping that we finally and at last take action about our mental health problem that we have here in our rural area. We do not have enough mental health care providers out here. We don't have the population we once did, but we still have some sick people, and they need to be taken care of. Is that something you plan to focus on, or were you impressed with Governor Reynolds when she talked about it a little bit today?
Well, as you know, as we've talked in the past, that is definitely something I plan on focusing on. Mental health, I think, is a huge priority for our district. Some things are working in other areas, but Fort Dodge really needs some work, and I'm committed to working on that. So what the governor had to say today, she's also committed to working on that, not just for adults, but for children. And I was really encouraged by that she did spend so much time talking about that. A couple of the things she talked about, one was adding 4 more medical residencies. So for University of Iowa, for doctors who are committed to going into psychiatry. So that's going to bring 4 more positions into the state. Of course, they have to commit to stay in rural Iowa, which Fort Dodge is considered rural Iowa.
Oh, certainly. We're rural. I don't think anybody can deny that.
And she's also committed to training more mid-level providers. So mid-level providers are nurse practitioners and physician assistants. So we'll have more psychiatric providers in the state. And I'm excited about that too. The more providers, the better. But, at this time, we can still use telehealth, which is the television screen, until these people get out of training. Obviously, we can open these spots, but it's still going to take years for them to get through. So at this time, we can still use telehealth for mental health treatment.
Do we have enough beds in the state of Iowa for mental health patients?
No, we don't have enough acute beds in the state of Iowa. And that's one thing that that the county government and the governor put into place last year is establishing access centers. And so that is in the works, but we definitely need to have a big enough access center for acutely ill patients. Of course, we want to prevent any acute crises, but they're going to happen. So we definitely need to increase the number of acute beds we have. And again, I know I've said this week after week with you, but I'm committed to that. I'm committed on improving that situation.
Well, repetition is the mother of learning, and we have to keep we have to repeat these things, and we have to chart the progress and see what's going on. I nothing against Governor Reynolds. I've met Governor Reynolds on a number of occasions, and she's a very passionate person, and I like passion, principled passion. I know I know the state of, whether it be the State of the Union or the State of the State, sometimes leaders say things and they want to get things done, but they can't for one reason or another. Or it just doesn't get done. So I hope that's not the case with mental health care. I hope mental health care and health care in general, especially in our part of the state where we have an aging population, I hope we can all get together on this, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, whatever, and work together and get something done with health care and especially mental health care in our state.
You know, the legislation that was passed in the last session, which, I wasn't here for, so I can't take any credit for it, but I'm very pleased with it. That was passed on bipartisan. Those are bipartisan laws that were signed. Everyone is on board with that. Everyone knows that this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It affects everyone. And so everyone wants to address it. I really think with the progress that was made last year, I think I hope everyone will be as committed to me as continuing that progress. I know that Senator Kreinbrink and Representative Sexton are.
I hope that I certainly hope that's the case. If Representative Scrappy there is committed, I think we're a mile ahead right there.
That's right, because he can get things done.
I think he can. I believe that. I believe that. That's kind of one of the reasons I gave him that name, Scrapster. I think he can get things done. Representative Ann Meyer is our guest here at AM 1400 KVFD. I know Senator Kreinbrink and perhaps you have talked with Mayor Bemrick about backfill. Mayor Bemrick, when he's been on this program, has been concerned about backfill to the cities, going back to then Governor Branstad's property tax cut of a few years ago. Do you have any insight on that or any information on backfill as to what's going to happen this year?
Well, as I finish up my second day, I still don't have that information.
But,
I
understand that. Yeah.
No, Governor did not address that today, but one way or the other. So
the governor did not address that at all.
Not in her speech. No.
Okay. Have you been in meetings with city county government people? The city and the county get together every now and then
yes.
to discuss what's happening. Have you attended those meetings, or was the backfill? I'm sure the backfill was discussed at those meetings.
Yes, I have been able to attend 2 of those so far, and backfill is discussed, and that is a key concern.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be here on Friday. Now you guys can show up if you want, but I'm not going to be here. But so
you know what? I'm not going to be here either because it is. I think it's the only one of the session, but for the House, that is a working day for us.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that'll work out. Yeah, I took a vacation day.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you're going to do something fun.
Well, I will, as a matter of fact. I will do something. At my age, doing something fun is going down to Cedar Rapids, see the grandkids. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, listen, drive early on Friday because I hear Friday into Saturday is going to be snowy.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of nasty. I know you and Jim, your husband, were in Mexico, and that would be my preference. But I certainly like to go see the grandchildren. We'll just have to see what happens those days as far as the weather. Anyway, do you have any other impressions of Governor Reynolds' speech? Did you hear anything that you liked?
It was very positive. I love to hear the governor speak. She's got such a great personality. She's very positive, and she's so passionate about the state of Iowa. She loves the state of Iowa. And I love to hear her speak, and I like her positive vision for the future.
Well, the Des Moines Register has made quite a big deal out of Governor Reynolds' staff. She has a lot of women on her staff. There are more women now representing us. That, to me, the gender thing doesn't mean a thing.
You know what? That doesn't mean a thing to me either.
The Des Moines Register
can do the best job.
That's the way I feel. I mean, we had several or a couple of contests here. Let's see how many. Well, you ran against Dr. Srinivas, who was a female, and of course our treasurer's race was between 2 women. No, I'm not getting it at all. I'm not getting why and if Governor Reynolds can certainly pick her own staff if she's more comfortable, or if and I'm sure she's picked the staff that she's most comfortable with, whether it's men or women. I think actually Republicans have been out in front of this gender issue far more than the Democrats, who are talking about it all the time. We have a Republican female United States senator.
The first in Iowa was
the first. We have a governor.
The first Speaker of the House in Iowa.
First Speaker of the
A
House.
Republican female, Linda Upmeyer.
On and on and on. Yeah, and the governor of the state, of course.
Yep. So Iowa's pretty progressive. Iowa Republicans, especially, are pretty progressive on females as far as elections.
Well, I don't think it's a conscious choice with Republicans. We just don't care. I mean, if you can do the job better than somebody else, the job is yours. That's the heart.
Exactly.
That's the heart and soul of conservatism. Individual achievement, individual accomplishment, and individual responsibility. If you don't, if you're not responsible or you can't do the job when you're out, well, you're out. Nothing personal. You may be a nice person, but we're going to get the person in who's going to do the best. And I know you're the person who's going to do the best, Ann.
Thank you.
Of course.
I am going to try. I'm going to work the hardest. I'll tell you that.
I know you are. I know you are. Anything else you can tell us that happened in Des Moines today that we need to know?
No, I think that was pretty much it. It was a first day for committee meetings, and they were pretty short. Just getting introduced, and in my committee there were no new bills announced today. I think that will be next week. This week is a lot of pomp and circumstance for governor, and then tomorrow Chief Justice Mark Cady addresses both chambers, and on Thursday I believe it's National Guard, and then of course Friday is inauguration for Governor Reynolds.
Okay, sounds like a full week.
Yeah,
all right,
it is.
Representative Ann Meyer has been our guest. Thanks so much for calling, Ann.
Thanks. Have a great week.
You too. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. That was nice, Ann, to call. I do appreciate it. Of course, at the city council last night, we had apparently some people didn't want any Mexicans living in their neighborhood up by Nolecrest, and they raised hell with the council, and the council, again, with a real strong profile and courage, backed down and prevented KDG from building some apartment buildings north of the Aquatic Center. I don't know where, and Councilman Flattery talked about, well, we have I can't quote Dave. He said more or less our rental housing stock is pathetic or worse to that effect. Well, all right, I would ask Councilman Flaherty and I would ask the other council people if our current rental stock is a mess or disgrace or whatever the word's being used, if we need more upscale rentals or leases or apartments that can be leased, where are they supposed to go if not there? I mean, these units were apparently advertised at $1,000 to $1,500 each. Now, I understand that you can get, because some of the workers that are coming to Prestige are going to be from the third world. We can't say these things because we're so racially sensitive and we're in agony about how terrible white people have been and all this sort of thing. But frankly, some people who work at Prestige will probably come from very primitive conditions. And it was not unusual in some areas of the country for those from Central America, especially, to have 3 generations living in the same apartment building. I'm unaware of major problems as far as crime is concerned with Hispanics in our state. Of course, there could be a real problem, and those statistics are being suppressed, which I always suspect that the media, the print media, certainly don't want to print crime statistics that are unfavorable to mass unchecked immigration. The print media and academia and business, by the way, all want this. They all want large, unchecked mass immigration to our state. Really what they want is slavery. There is very little difference between the attitude of 19th century slaveholders and those who speak favorably of flooding our state with cheap labor, unskilled labor, by the way. a lot of noise is made about, oh, we need these skilled people. Well, nobody's saying skilled people. Nobody is saying skilled people can't come to our country. We encourage skilled people to come to our country. What we're talking about in our very rural part of the state, as everyone knows, are people without high school educations, perhaps 5th, 6th grade educations. Where are they supposed to live if they come to our area? Are we going to let them go to Eagle Grove or Clarion or Webster City? It's a difficult question. And I don't think the city council did anything to advance the understanding of the controversy that we're in right now. I don't think the city council, by their actions and by their relative silence, other than, well, we didn't know this many people were going to be ticked out about this apartment complex, so we better vote it down. Okay, we do have Prestige Farms opening up really quick. We want our town to grow. If we want to attract workers from Prestige Farms, where the hell are they supposed to go? Because all of the workers are not going to be professional class people. And yes, there are going to be people here from other countries who may not speak English at all. What are we going to do? Are we going to keep going through this meaningless circus of a developer wanting to put up some apartment building somewhere and running into all kinds of problems from neighbors who don't want the third world moving into their neighborhood, because that's exactly what the deal is. So we need a council that leads. We don't need a council that reacts. Can you join me in telling the council this? We need a council that leads on this issue, that speaks on this issue, that persuades on this issue. AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, Sam, I want to talk a little bit about where you say the folks who are coming in for Prestige are going to live.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've heard about and gotten good word on is that they're being encouraged to live in Eagle Grove, Thor, Goldfield, Dakota City, but they're being told not to go to Fort Dodge.
Wait a minute. They're being told not to go to Fort Dodge. Who's telling them that?
The folks who are hiring at Prestige.
Prestige Farms. That's kind of inflammatory information. Where did you hear that?
Like I say, I've got it on good authority. I don't want to divulge my source on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'd have to say this is unsubstantiated then. Okay. I mean, no offense to you.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right. Good. So that's unusual. Was there a reason given? Did your source give you a reason why folks from applying for work at Prestige are being told not to come to Fort Dodge?
Well, and that's something that I'd like to find out as well, because I really don't understand the reasoning, because Fort Dodge isn't all that far from there. I mean, it probably isn't any further than Eagle Grove is.
And right? Nothing against Thor, but Fort Dodge has more amenities than Thor does,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you want to live in a town with the most amenities in our area, it's going to have to be Fort Dodge, I would think. I hope.
Well, yeah, I mean, in those areas that I just mentioned, well, most certainly, right. So,
well, where do you think people should live in Fort Dodge? The question I've had is every time a developer tries to build some apartments in our town, a group of citizens comes forward and pressures the council not to move those people into their neighborhood. These are the same sort of people that support Hillary, by the way, but don't want Mexicans in their neighborhood. I love it. I love that. I love liberals when it comes to this sort of thing.
Well, but it isn't just that simple, because, all right, the apartments that they we're going to build over by 32nd Street, they had that high price tag on them, right?
Yeah.
And so that would, presumably prevent, those, in quotes, those people from moving in. But the fact is that they would actually get Section 8 subsidies. So the people that own the apartments, they're going to get their $1,100 or $1,500 a month while the folks that are living there pay whatever Section 8, and then that's going to be made up from the pockets of you and me.
Well, I don't think I'm in favor of that. Where what rule is that? Where could I double check on that, or where could I find the primary source on that?
Look into HUD housing and Section 8.
I will. I certainly will. All right. Listen, we're going to have to go, but I thank you for calling.
All right. Thank you so much.
You bet. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. That's what we got, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we need a council who can show us some leadership and stop reacting. Come on now.
We are the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in nurturing our state's most precious resource, our children. That's why we provide millions of dollars in scholarships, grants, and resources to Iowa students and teachers. For more information, contact your local county farm bureau.
Blue Ribbon, Pelham Waters, your water pro since 1949.
Who would have thought there'd be entire aisles devoted to bottled water and that people would buy more water than pop? I'm Brian with Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters here in Fort Dodge. Spring water, drinking water, mineral water. There's so many choices, and we're proud to offer you them all. From our own refreshingly pure drinking water to ultra pure Mountain Valley spring water, Blue Ribbon Pelham's is your complete water store.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa's economy is soaring, but lawmakers have work to do to ensure struggling Iowans find success, including Iowans with a criminal record. Radio Iowa's OK Henderson reports.
Reynolds delivered the annual Condition of the State message to lawmakers today. She asked them to set the wheels in motion so Iowa voters can pass a constitutional amendment so a felon's voting rights are automatically restored when a felon completes their sentence. Under current practice, felons who've done their time and paid their fines must apply to the governor to have their voting rights restored. Making this change is all about second chances, the governor said. Reynolds also touted creation of a new program at the state's medium security prison in Newton. Inmates would learn construction skills there by building houses that will be trucked out to rural communities. Go to radioiowa.com to learn more about the governor's 2019 legislative agenda. It includes her call for an $89 million increase in state support of K-12 public schools. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says it's no surprise fellow Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King is being punished for his comments about white supremacy. Grassley notes Republican House leaders have stripped King of his committee assignments, and some Democrats are calling for King's censure.
That's entirely within the view of the House of Representatives. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, I've seen that sort of punishment done by the House, both censure as well as being deprived of committee.
On Monday, King was removed from 3 panels, the Agriculture and Small Business Committees, as well as the powerful Judiciary Committee. Grassley says he understands the actions of House GOP leaders who say King's remarks won't be tolerated.
I'll have to accept their judgment on it. I don't disagree with their judgment, and I'm not surprised that House Republicans took this step. It's happened in the past when I was a member of the House because a particular member dishonors the chamber.
King says his comments were completely mischaracterized and that booting him from the committees is a political decision that ignores the truth. Yet Grassley and other Republicans are distancing themselves from King.
Under our Constitution, I have to respect their decision, and I strongly disagree with any comments supporting white supremacy. It's offensive, and it's not a view that I hold.
Grassley says while King won't be able to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District in committee action, he'll still be able to voice opinions on any issues that come from those committees when they go before the full House for a vote. A plan that would have built high-end apartments in Fort Dodge was defeated on Monday after heavy disapproval of the project by community members. Only 2 of the 7 council members voted to approve the housing project led by KDG LLC of Columbia, Missouri, that would have built apartments along North 32nd Street. The apartments would have had 108 units to start with, and they would have been priced between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. Council members Nevin Conrad and Lydia Scher voted yes on the project. Council members Dave Flattery, Kim Allstott, Jeff Halter, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voted no. About 100 Fort Dodge residents were at the meeting that opposed the project, and many property owners living within 200 feet of the proposed construction area signed a petition against it. In local sports, St. Edmund basketball hosts Hampton Dumont tonight with radio coverage of the girls' game at 6:15 and the boys following at 7:45 on Sunny 99.7. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 335. Greg Horr, the pork producer, is coming up in just a couple of minutes. The rest of this afternoon will be cloudy with a high of 35, 34 degrees right now. Overnight, mostly cloudy, low 17. Wind chill factor temperature may be 0. Tomorrow, increasing cloudiness with a high of 28. Wind chill factor temperature 10 degrees. On Thursday, a chance of snow, mostly cloudy with a high of 30. Friday, snow is likely in the afternoon with a high of 19 degrees. Saturday, patchy blowing snow, mostly sunny. Later on, very cold with a high only of 9 degrees, and we'll have a lot of wind. On Sunday, sunny and cold with a high of 2. And a lot of wind once again, which means we'll have wind chill factor temperatures, that's for sure. On Monday, Martin Luther King Day, partly sunny with a high of 20 degrees. Right now, again, in town, 34 degrees at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street in Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. Rick Grannon, who I've known for years, has died at the age of 66. I'm very sorry to report the passing of Earl Richard Grannon, 66 years old. He died last Friday at Trinity Regional. Services for Earl will be on Saturday from 1 to 3 at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Larry Davis has died at the age of 79. Larry D. Davis has passed at 79. Services for Mr. Davis are pending at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Dorothy Malloy has died at the age of 94. Her funeral was this morning at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Robert Rivers has passed away at 58. His service was earlier this afternoon, again at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street in Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 337 and 34 degrees. Greg Horr, the pork producer, is in the studio. We'll talk with Greg in a few minutes. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down 7 1/4 at 371 1/4. May down 7 1/4 at 379 3/4. July down 7 1/4 cents at 387 1/2. September down 6 1/2 at 391 1/2. March soybeans down 10 1/4 at 893 1/4. May down 10 1/2 at 906 3/4. July beans down 10 1/4 at 919 3/4. August down a dime at 925 1/4. March wheat closed down 3 1/4 at 511. Soybean meal down 250 a ton at 309.30. February live cattle up 152 at 126.95. April up 75 at 127.42. January feeder cattle down a dime at 144.75. March up 35 cents at 144.75. February lean hogs up 30 cents at 62.15. April up 12 at 66.95. I'm Dwayne Murley.
I'm Tiffany Haddish, and I use Groupon so much, they made me the spokesperson. Every day, Groupon helps small businesses by giving them easy-to-use marketing tools so they can engage new customers and bring in new business. But what I think they really mean is that Groupon keeps the door dinging, the cash register ringing, and puts butts in seats, all while helping neighborhoods thrive and customers save money. It's a win-win-win situation. Groupon, where businesses grow, and customers save.
If you're struggling with weight and frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Hypnosis can help. Join over 500,000 people who have attended Mark Patrick Hypnosis programs with weight loss results. Mark Patrick Hypnosis will be in Fort Dodge on Wednesday, February 6th.
After this hypnosis, I want to eat good food.
Since August, I can honestly say I have not had one potato chip.
It was life-changing for me.
And I don't think about desserts like I used to. I lost a total of 83 pounds.
It's easy, it's fun, very relaxing, and very successful.
And I would just say go for it.
For only $49.99, lose all the weight you want, 100% guaranteed. Wednesday, February 6th at the Quality Inn and Suites on Highway 169 South, Fort Dodge. The seminar will be held from 5:30 till 7:30 p.m. Registration starts at 5. Attend this program and find out how the power of hypnosis can help you achieve your weight loss goals. There's limited seating, so get there early. Learn more at markpatrickseminars.com.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
I don't understand what is preventing you from laughing this off and giving me a big hug.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Here we are, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. My schedule is just a little bit off this week, but that's okay. I usually have Greg Hora of the Pork Producers in on Wednesday and Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau in on Tuesday. But I was going to go down, I think I've explained it earlier, I was going to go down to Des Moines today for the governor's State of the State address. It was icy this morning, and by the time I got on the road, it was going to screw up my schedule. I had to get back here and then and be on the air, so I couldn't go. But I regret that. But anyway, Greg is here today because he can't be here tomorrow. How are you, Greg?
Well, doing good, Mike. However, as you mentioned that, you and I just connected here in the last 30 or so minutes for me to come in here. But
Right.
Do you want tickets to the governor's ball?
That would be terrific.
I was offered some tickets today.
That would be
I
terrific.
could get you lined up.
You are the man.
I'm not
Hora.
going though.
You're not
Okay.
gonna go.
No, I'm not going.
Well, I wasn't going to go as your date.
I think what was the statement? The governor and her closest 3,600 friends. So you could be part of that. But that's what
I'd be the poorest guy in that room. I'll tell you that.
I don't know. You go in there and dazzle them. But that is part of what goes on in our political arena and in parties. And with respect to what the Republicans do or Democrats do, and we have to praise those and appreciate those successes along the way. But I did not hear the governor's address this morning as I was busy with other things. But I did hear a little bit of the news takeaway on it and talked about rural Iowa and economic vitality.
Right.
So there's a standard that will be there. And I know that's what we talk about in this program when I'm in here about agriculture, or we're talking about rural Iowa development, of which I just heard your previous segment speaking a little bit about the housing and what we as a community or other communities want to do with economic development, with housing, and as a previous segment you had discussed.
Yeah. Well, I started out, and of course, I had a caller that gave us some unverified information. I don't know if that's true or not, but I started out talking about KDG wanting to build some apartment buildings just north of the Aquatic Center, and that was defeated last night by the city council after numerous complaints from people who live in Knollcrest. Okay, fine. Councilman Flaherty, who is a visionary on the council as far as I'm concerned, and he represents that part of town, of course. He said, well, my people are telling me to vote against this, so I'm going to vote against it. But we need housing because our existing rental and leasing stock is, I forget the word that he used, but I think he said pathetic or something like that. Now, and here's my point. We need the council people then to lead on this issue. Where are we supposed to go?
Yeah.
If we need new housing stock, where's it supposed to go?
Well, I said last week on this station, I'll be real cautious with some of my comments here because I haven't been engaged with any of the city council people with respect to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't live over there, but I do know that it is an open field across a road, and the newly created road, newly created bike path, newly created ditches.
Right.
So the infrastructure is being developed on that side of town with the sewer system, the storm sewer system that goes taking water away. So these type of developments is what, as I mentioned last week, city government or county government has helped to put the wheels in motion for private developers to make decisions for private investment. And that's what this pathway I felt was going to happen with regards to the city council looking objectively at this. Now, whether they charge $500, $1,000, or $1,500 a month for the rental on an apartment, that's not for city government to worry about. City government is to help to be the vehicle, to be the visionaries, to have leadership for this. And to have mischaracterizations out there about our housing in town, I think does a great disservice to all the contractors, all those people that are buying homes that probably are run down. And I know people that are buying those homes at $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. They're putting $20,000 of goods and services and labor into them. And now they're renting them for $800 or $1,000 a month. And so we're bringing properties back on the tax rolls. This neighborhood around the downtown Fort Dodge is a prime example. Private development, along with other private investors and some tax dollars helping make some improvements.
So you're talking about mischaracterization. What are you referring to now? Are you taking issue with Councilman Flattery, or?
Well, I think we have a lot of diverse housing in this community. And as I mentioned last week, a meeting that I participated in back in December with the poultry and pork expansion people, the existing poultry producers, the Prestige Foods people,
right,
and some of our association people with poultry and pork from around the state. We had a meeting in town, and the very next day they had a meeting with the Growth Alliance people. And I think you've had some of those folks in here. I haven't.
Oh,
heard,
sure. Yeah.
I haven't heard too much in the last couple months on this on your station, quite honestly. But I would share with your listeners is that they all know we have to have some additional housing here. There was a mischaracterization, I think, by your previous caller in the last segment about housing going to Eagle Grove, Thor.
Well, what
Vincent.
he said was, and boy, if I wish I had a 7-second delay there, I might have bleeped that out. What he said was that he had it on very good authority that somebody in the Prestige organization was telling new workers to go to Thor, Eagle Grove, or other places, but definitely not Fort Dodge.
Well,
now, that's kind of an
absolutely.
inflammatory.
Yeah, well, you know what we can all do with hearsay. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and that's what this is
Yep.
right now.
Absolutely. And I'm talking about the economic development people in our community and surrounding communities that are addressing these issues right now. And we're addressing them on a number of fronts. But I've also said that, the types of workers that we are needing to bring into the Eagle Grove, Fort Dodge, Webster City, Humboldt area for this packing plant, whatever type of housing they will afford, they will have to find in communities that currently have housing.
Right.
And that's why this push, I believe, has been good with leadership and good with investment. I mean, people are taking private investment dollars to put forth, but it's a stepping stone of process. People that are currently in $400 and $500 a month rent, they might step up to the $750 or $800 a month rent, or they might go and buy their first home and start to get into the workforce in an area by which they can participate economically and also with their housing. But that's a terrible mischaracterization. I think any workers that want to live in our community, that we should be embracing opportunities. And if we have, as I've been saying this for 2 years, if we have concerns and we want to point out potential problems, well, let's point those out and let's find solutions and seek some solutions.
Leadership.
Absolutely.
Leading.
Yep.
Now,
And
there's an
so-
idea. Because what we're doing right now is reacting.
Well, we had some of the same situations with the mall, and I wasn't privy to a lot of that information. And we had a mall developer that wanted to come in and do some changes, make some appearance changes, make some structural changes.
Mhm.
And that was fought on a couple different fronts, and they pulled out. And I think that's one of the things that we hopefully will not lose here. Quite honestly, folks, that's how the Prestige Foods plant got down here, because local people in the Mason
In the
City
Mason
area
City area, yeah.
started raising Cain about some of the very same words that we have hearsay on about the types of workers and the types of plant. But doggone it, if you look out there, $350 million investment that's going to be starting up in the next 90 days. And right now the applications are out and people are moving up in the job world economically and also with skills.
Would you have, are you in disagreement with the council's decision last night?
Once again, I know it was a split vote. I did
Not much it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't
It
hear.
really wasn't split. I think one of the councilmen voted in favor.
No,
and
no,
all
no,
the rest.
no, it was split.
Are you sure?
Yeah, your listeners know it was either 2 to 5 or 3 to 4. I don't remember on that right now. I only briefly read it this morning. And so anyway, with respect to that, it was a split vote. And whether or not that there was much council discussions prior to that, none of us really know. But once again, this is a volatile issue on the east side of town. And I know that those folks in that area, they have a much better road than what other parts of town have much more accessibility. And we continue to have structural improvements across town for the very reason that we do need to have not only more housing, but we will have an influx of people, hopefully, to our community.
Yeah, Nevin Conrad and Lydia Schur voted yes last night. The rest of the council people, Allstott, Flattery, Halter, Hill, and Minky voted no.
Yep.
2 to 5.
2 to 5. Yeah.
5 to 2 or whatever.
Yep. So, there's a lot that goes on with that. And Mike, this is kind of the power of local control, I guess. And these are the type of things that happen when you have local control. And this was a zoning issue. And I realize that.
Here's my frustration, Greg. I've been talking, as you brought up, the Growth Alliance, council members, county supervisors, the mayor, everybody, and you and other people in the ag business. Steve Peterson, certainly the Farm Bureau, talks about it. Everybody says that we need new housing in Fort Dodge. We get a chance to get new housing in Fort Dodge, and there's a big brawl about it, and it goes away. Yeah. Now, we're doing something wrong here. So we have to have council people, our elected leaders, make the case. Dave Flattery, I'll tell you, was very convincing about the need for the crosstown connector. He campaigned passionately about it.
Yep.
We had a big council meeting out at Iowa Central in the auditorium, and Dave gave a presentation I'll never forget. It was first class about how we needed this crosstown connector. Well, okay. We have the infrastructure in place. We're ready for growth. We're poised for growth, as Plouts is always saying. One of the things we have to do is get some housing.
Yep.
And we shoot it down. The council folds like a house of cards when they get a full room like they apparently had last night.
Sure. Well, and we understand people have emotional effect on what the issues will be, especially when the visual appearance of what they now know will change. We also had that on the Williams Bend area.
Mm-hmm.
And that visual appearance up there is also changing for a lot of people that have homes that face the south and people that have homes that face the north into the Williams Bend area. But, these are the types of things that hopefully we don't lose private developers' investment money. Hopefully they will be able to find another location that will fit this type of housing.
That's my question. Where are we going to put them? I mean, if KDG says, okay, we'll go somewhere else, where is that? Where is it where everybody in the neighborhood is not going to turn out and say, we don't want this in our neighborhood?
Well, and as we know, we have areas of this community that are zoned for industrial or light industrial area. All of the expansion that has happened to the east of Fort Frenzy and that development that we've put as a community and state and federal dollars, a lot of money into that infrastructure, which is nice for additional transportation and also for future investment of businesses. Just like out at the crossroads of Global Innovation at the Ag Park out west of town. I mentioned last week on the air that I had a man from the country of Denmark with me a week ago Monday. We were out at the Ag Park out west of town, looking at the ethanol plants, talking about the activities out there at CJ Bio. And those are international companies that are doing things that products from just out west of town here are not only exported throughout the United States, but throughout the world. And that's the same way with Prestige. Jerry Nola stated that they probably will be exporting 30% of the pork from the Prestige Foods plant outside of the country. And they will be processing the primal cuts here at the Prestige Foods plant.
Primal cuts?
The primal cuts. So in a carcass, you have primal cuts like the shoulder and the pork belly and the hams and the loins. Those are primal cuts. And so you can process those in a manner that you can transport to retailers or exporters. But then there's further processing that you will have to send to another plant that I'd like to make another announcement on today too. But then there's further processing of those products.
AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, the question was posed, where do we put the people? I'm afraid that, I hate to say it, but nobody's going to be happy unless they're down at the flats.
Well,
well, that's a total mischaracterization once again.
I know it is. I know it is, and it's unfair.
But it's
But
it's,
I
it's
think that that is the area that will get the least
resistance. Yeah, that's
well, okay. So first of all, there's a whole bunch of issues there, Mike, and so we're going to stay above the line on this. Okay, can either work below the line or above the line, and I'm the type of person, and I think most thought-provoking people are that you want to stay above the line. So developers are private industry, private investment, and those are the individuals that we need to have to make economic impact in our communities. The cities and the counties are supposed to help pave the way with infrastructure or zoning issues.
They do.
That
They have.
that private developers can then step in, as long as we're following the rules that are established in place. And the recent controversy as of last night, though I'm sure there's already been many hours of discussions and meetings today
Mhm.
by our city leaders and our elected officials, so that we can now find another solution, because that solution was turned down. And I'm generally one of those people to say, if you're going to say no to something, what will you say yes to?
That's what I'm trying to talk about today.
Yep.
What are you going to say yes to? And furthermore, obviously, and this guy has a little bit of a point when he's, and it's the point I've been making in frustration, is no matter where you want to build some or build a housing development of this kind, there's going to be pushback, protest. The neighborhood might again fill the council chambers as they did last night, and the council will vote it down because there's too much public pressure. So it's incumbent on the council to go to their individual wards and convince them that this is a
Yeah.
real opportunity for Fort Dodge, because it is a golden opportunity for our town.
Well, we look at some areas around the state to take a little bit broader view. Where are the areas around the state that are very vibrant and growing with population? And we look at the Ankeny school system. And all
Right.
those of us in this community know that the Ankeny school system, back when my kids were in high school 10 years ago, they had one high school.
Yeah.
Well, now they have two high schools that are the same size as that one high school was 10 years ago.
And they're getting another one,
And Waukee is an
Waukee is
example right
another.
now. And Waukee is an area by which they're doing the same things out west of town, and west of Waukee, I should say. So if we as a community have a planned development, and we have all these plans, and I know our community citizens, they love to hear about studies, and our mayor is always about studies, and I compliment them and appreciate what they look at.
Mhm.
Maybe we need to have a little bit more comprehensive study on the housing and those opportunities for our private investment and our risk takers out there to have our planned areas, to have the communities and those neighborhoods, as you just referred to, have them be engaged in the process.
I'm ready to do that. This is happening too often. This sort of thing is happening too often. We look unwelcoming, and that's not the posture that we want to have as a town. We're poised for growth. This is
Yeah.
Poutz's phrase. He's been using it for years. We're poised for growth. Well, so someone comes in. Oh, you're poised for growth. Well, I want to come in then. Well, sorry, we don't want you.
Well, just once again, and you've had some other thoughtful people in here talking about Prestige, and I don't know really who has said what, but from the meeting that I know happened in mid-December that I participated in, and then the very next day, some Growth Alliance people, I believe, heard the very same thing. And the fact is that in December, Prestige had hired 87 people,
Okay.
mostly management people, and the onboarding of the supplies and onboarding of staff to get the plant into a position by which they can start hiring the line workers.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Knoll stated there in December that starting in January, that they would be looking to hire 300 to 500 people in the next 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are into that time period now, folks. And
Right.
You can go online and you can see these things with the Prestige Food site for hiring applications. And I know that they have a lot of people that are diligent in that work. So we have a big turnover because we will have a stepping stone. The meeting I participated in, the Poultry Association people and the poultry growers, they all were looking at where they might be losing workers from. And in the food industry, we have to have daily workers, daily care for our animals and our collection of those animals, especially in eggs, for example. But yeah, we'll continue to hopefully have more influx of people. Some of these jobs may come from other packing plants. Some of them may come from other industry. But needless to say, we in this area will start to see an impact here soon.
Well, if the council people would like to make an impact and like to start convincing people, I offer this microphone. Now, I'm not trying to get council people on this radio station for me, because I don't think having a council person on the radio station necessarily is to my benefit.
Well, no, it's not a battle. It's about pros and cons.
That's right.
And trying to lay out that vision. I mean, we have some thoughtful people, and those 5 that voted against it, I know that they're all thought-provoking people, that they like to be challenged because they like to come up with solutions to those challenges.
Then I challenge them to come up with the solutions now.
And I'm sure that they have had those discussions today. And hopefully that we'll continue to see some efforts come forward on that.
Well, I hope so, Greg, because this was a disappointing day. This was when we have somebody comes to our town and says, I want to spend $30 million, and we kick him down the street. We have to ask why.
Yeah, but I don't really like to mischaracterize as a total disappointing day. Maybe it's a one step back day so that we can now take 2 steps forward.
You're a lot more optimistic than I am.
Well, I think that's what we have to approach it at, because we still have an issue here to deal with.
We'll be back with Greg Hora, who's a lot more optimistic than I am. It's 4:00 in the afternoon, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Gary Rima, the voice of the University of Northern Iowa Panthers, and this is the home for Panther Sports, the voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa's economy is soaring, but lawmakers have work to do to ensure struggling Iowans find success, including Iowans with a criminal record. Radio Iowa's OK Henderson reports.
Reynolds delivered the annual Condition of the State message to lawmakers today. She asked them to set the wheels in motion so Iowa voters can pass a constitutional amendment so a felon's voting rights are automatically restored when a felon completes their sentence. Under current practice, felons who've done their time and paid their fines must apply to the governor to have their voting rights restored. Making this change is all about second chances, the governor said. Reynolds also touted creation of a new program at the state's medium security prison in Newton. Inmates would learn construction skills there by building houses that will be trucked out to rural communities. Go to radioiowa.com to learn more about the governor's 2019 legislative agenda. It includes her call for an $89 million increase in state support of K-12 public schools. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says it's no surprise fellow Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King is being punished for his comments about white supremacy. Grassley notes Republican House leaders have stripped King of his committee assignments, and some Democrats are calling for King's censure.
That's entirely within the view of the House of Representatives. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, I've seen that sort of punishment done by the House, both censure as well as being deprived of committee.
On Monday, King was removed from 3 panels, the Agriculture and Small Business Committees, as well as the powerful Judiciary Committee. Grassley says he understands the actions of House GOP leaders who say King's remarks won't be tolerated.
I'll have to accept their judgment on it. I don't disagree with their judgment, and I'm not surprised that House Republicans took this step. It's happened in the past when I was a member of the House because a particular member dishonors the chamber.
King says his comments were completely mischaracterized and that booting him from the committees is a political decision that ignores the truth. Yet Grassley and other Republicans are distancing themselves from King.
Under our Constitution, I have to respect their decision, and I strongly disagree with any comments supporting white supremacy. It's offensive, and it's not a view that I hold.
Grassley says while King won't be able to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District in committee action, he'll still be able to voice opinions on any issues that come from those committees when they go before the full House for a vote. A plan that would have built high-end apartments in Fort Dodge was defeated on Monday after heavy disapproval of the project by community members. Only 2 of the 7 council members voted to approve the housing project led by KDG LLC of Columbia, Missouri, that would have built apartments along North 32nd Street. The apartments would have had 108 units to start with, and they would have been priced between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. Council members Nevin Conrad and Lydia Scher voted yes on the project. Council members Dave Flattery, Kim Allstott, Jeff Halter, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voted no. About 100 Fort Dodge residents were at the meeting that opposed the project, and many property owners living within 200 feet of the proposed construction area signed a petition against it. In local sports, St. Edmund basketball hosts Hampton Dumont tonight with radio coverage of the girls' game at 6:15 and the boys following at 7:45 on Sunny 99.7. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 35. Southwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies tonight, lows level off around 18. High of 28 tomorrow. Chance for snow Thursday and Friday. Upper 20s Thursday, upper teens by Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 34.
Have the talk of the lifetime with the ones you love.
Grandma, this card asks, when did you get a TV and what was your favorite show?
I think around 1950, they had a Fort Dodge TV station that had a local barn dance show every Saturday night. Oh, honey, it was so much fun. They'd play instruments, we would sing and dance.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today, it will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
What's in store for your business this week at Staples?
Multitasking mini spending.
Now at Staples, save 50% on the HP OfficeJet Pro 8710 printer. It's a multifunctional machine that delivers pro-quality color printing for less.
Like you, it wears a lot of hats for your small business.
Hats, however, sold separately.
Save 50% on the HP OfficeJet Pro 8710 and get more done for less money at Staples.
Where there's a whole lot in store.
Ends 1/19/19. See store associate or staples.com/printing event for details.
It's Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
I accept this gavel in the spirit of partnership, not partisanship. It's an historic moment for the Congress. It's an historic moment for the women of America.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Pork Producers. And with me, of course, is our own Greg Hora, who is this year's president of the Iowa Pork Producers. And we have been talking about issues that are very, very important to our community and to pork production in our immediate area. We're talking Prestige Farms, of course. Greg, you told me last week that there'll be 65 loaded trailers of hogs wheeling into Prestige every single day.
Yeah, that's
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and usually I speak on Wednesday, and I'm sure your listening audience is about the same on Tuesdays as it is on Wednesdays. But I always like to keep things real for people's understanding. And so, what does 1,000 jobs mean with a packing plant that's going to harvest 10,000 pigs a day?
Right.
Well, that's 65 semi-loads of pigs. And as most people know, up and down the road, you see a livestock truck, that's about 50,000 pounds of animals that are in there. It's about 170 pigs, average weight. And what's really important here, though, in these numbers is you have 65 loads of pigs going in, which is 5 days a week. I've heard you ask before, is it 6 days or 7 days a week? Well, right now it's going to be 5. There are some plants that are running on a Saturday. Some of those plants run a half a shift, depending on volume of pigs and profitability of the harvesting, etc. But the Prestige plant, not only do they take 65 loads of live animals in a day, but 38 to 40 loads of meat go out every single day. And there is no rail line there. So we know it's all going to be trucked in and trucked out every single day. Then that also doesn't take into effect all the other trucks that will be going in and out with the ancillary products of supplies and boxes, crates, pallets, things of that nature. So it's going to be a tremendous impact on a lot of different activity up there on those roads and other jobs that are related to the plant that we don't even speak about.
Yeah, well, it's huge news. It'll change our lives forever.
Yep.
And we need to manage it for our benefit here in Fort Dodge. The other communities are doing a terrific job. Smaller communities, Eagle Grove, Clarion, they're working together up there and getting the job done.
Well, in a little larger picture, and I do like to share that with my time on this station, is, we can look to some other plants where there's some successful things that are happening. And yes, we always talk about the new hog processing plant that went up in Sioux City, opened up 1.5 years ago. Seaboard Triumph. And so there's a lot of collaboration of different pig entities that take pigs into there. But I want to give good news also. We heard a couple years ago up at Cherokee that a processing plant was being shut down up there. They shuttered it. You know, the word shutter, which means you close it up. The plant was still there, but it was
Cherokee, Iowa, you talking about?
up at Cherokee. So there in Northwest Iowa, people know Cherokee's a town of about 5,000 people. But the good news is that plant has now been reopened under some other ownership and contractual agreements. And currently there's about 100 people working there, and they're further processing cuts of meat, cuts of pork, and with the hope of getting up to about 500 people working in that plant over the next couple years. Now, once again, this is a town of 5,000 people compared to our area, where the greater Fort Dodge area, we maybe have that 45 or 50,000 population with a pull factor in there that our economic development people have talked about. So, you know, that's good news. But also I would like to let your listeners know that in downtown Des Moines, there is a hog plant just south of the Capitol. And this plant has been up and going by different entities. Right now it's called Pine Ridge. And Pine Ridge is an agreement between 2 or 3 different pig ownership groups where they have specialty cuts of pork or specific cuts of pork with specific brand labels that go out of that Pine Ridge plant. And they bring in 1,100 pigs a day. So just a little less than 6,000 pigs per week. And it's a specialty market, and they do some further processing there also. But I tell you, folks, that's just a couple miles south of the Des Moines Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And on the right day, the Des Moines Capitol can smell that plant. But that's why we have new technologies, and they have implemented new technologies in those facilities. So, you know, it's interesting. We start talking about building livestock buildings or building processing plants, or the Frisky Nestle's plant here in Fort Dodge that takes in animal byproduct or animal co-products to further process into cat and dog food, be it dry food or canned cat and dog food, which is a huge employer in this community. And does it have an odorous effect at times? You bet it does. And that's right in the middle of town. But that's part of what we have to deal with and trying to make things better for the future too.
Yeah. Gosh, we've been talking economic development for 10 years, you know, and we've made huge strides. People who grew up in this town and moved away long ago and come back for a visit, they don't even recognize their hometown.
Yep.
And it's important that we, rather than just stopping things, that we find another way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't want it here, we immediately come up with an idea to put it somewhere else. Let's work with developers or Prestige or whoever we need to work with. You mentioned the Crossroads Mall thing fell apart on us. Very disappointing. But that's what we're running into. This is the frustration that I have as we get some people who want to turn things around because that mall area needs help. There's no doubt. And somehow that all fell apart. I mean, Nevin Mulholland, I talked with him on air about it. He was the attorney for the mall, I believe.
Yes.
And it was a real touchy situation, and it didn't go our way. So now we have the KDG Development Corporation here, who are trying to do some things. And I hope we can get it done.
Yeah.
I hope we can get the Warden Plaza done. So not everybody is convinced that the Warden Plaza should be rehabilitated.
Well, you know, we have a lot of employers around town that continue to have some movement of people, skills, those types of jobs that are not even created 5 years ago are now in the workforce place. And yes, we have a shifting of jobs that does happen, but you know, we're still in Iowa, we're agricultural based. And as I mentioned last week, next week is the Iowa Pork Congress in Des Moines. I'll be engaged in some meetings down there where we have presenters coming in talking about food and diets around the world, how we provide additional calories to people around the world.
Do I get to go with you? Because I really want to pick up some pork swag.
You come on down, Mike. You bet. I want to tell you here on air, I visit with your buddy Jeff Stein from Waterloo.
Yes.
Talked to him earlier on the radio on some things about pork and the pork industry. And as your listeners have heard me say before, that the pork industry employs about 140,000 people in the state of Iowa that have some relationship to the pork industry with their job. That's 1 in every 12 Iowans. And as we're looking at new demographics of people coming in and new types of jobs, we have to have some vision, and we have to be able to provide not only the housing, but as I mentioned last week, and the issues that surround transportation needs, childcare needs, assimilating into communities, shopping needs. Those are some real key factors that private industry will have the opportunity to step up into.
Or to put it bluntly or more succinctly, what kind of town do we want? What sort of town should Fort Dodge be in the next 10 years?
Yep.
And how do we get there? Yep. Are we going to go forward or backward? Because you don't stay still.
Yep. Good point.
You just don't stay still.
Well, we know in the farming community that a lot of technology changes, science brings in new opportunities. There's a cost factor, but hopefully we have a return factor in that. And that's why we invest in that. And, for your listeners out there, we know that I speak quite a bit about some trade issues and where we are with U.S., Mexico, and Canada. I would let you know that the Canadian friends are coming down next Tuesday, where we have a meeting with the ambassador of Canada next week, and we're talking about some of the agriculture issues, especially around the pork industry. We've heard Senator Grassley speak in the last couple of days regarding the Chinese discussions with the intellectual property. Robert Lighthizer, the trade ambassador for the United States, is planning to host the Chinese in a couple weeks in Washington, D.C.
Right.
So from an agriculture perspective, we hope that there's trying to settle the dust on the trade embargo and the tariff prices of pork and of soybeans. We have probably $1.50 loss in the soybean market right now because we have not been exporting as many soybeans as China has put on these high tariffs, these high taxes, we could call that. So they're not bringing soybeans in because it's not cost competitive from the United States. They're bringing them in from other countries like South America. But if we could open up this Hong Kong market a little bit better, we could open up the Chinese market for U.S. pork. I think that would continue to bode well for our exports out of this state and the supply that we do have on corn, soybeans, and pork.
Where are we? Have you heard anything as president of the Iowa Pork Producers about the trade relations with China, how that's coming? We got to get it. We got to get this government shut down out of the way. We got to get this trade situation straightened out. We got to stop this petty fighting and move forward. I'm ready to do that.
Yep.
I'm not taking sides. I'm not criticizing President Trump. I'm just saying that we need to have it resolved. We need E15 year round. Let's get it going here, boys and girls.
Good point. It was back in November when the president met at I think it was the G20 summit down in South America, there, Argentina, I think it was. And so there was a 90 days. So that puts us out into March, where they're going to have kind of a cooling off period of 90 days. And most of us understand how the Pacific Rim or the Asian countries negotiate. They wait till the very end. And maybe we could be at fault with that also. And we all know those are negotiating tactics. But hopefully we in agriculture continue to put forth the effort and the dialogue to encourage the Trump administration and the trade representatives to keep pursuing these discussions. And there is a lot of discussions that happen behind closed doors. We hear some recent announcements that some things might be favorable, which we hope that will happen. But when it comes to the intellectual property and the theft, we do know that there was a problem there. And all companies, as I heard you say a couple hours ago on the radio about credit card, just a simple credit card scam. Well, when big business, they're talking a lot more than hundreds or thousands of dollars. You're talking millions of dollars that could be at stake here. So some of those things that we have to deal with are very key. And some of our commodities, we kind of get caught in the backlash.
Yeah. We elected 2 Democrats to our congressional delegation this time around. That's fine. I asked Ann Meyer when she was on with me a little bit if gender made a difference. She believed it did not. And I have never believed it made a single solitary bit of difference. So now that we have these 2 female Democrats there, I would encourage those who are close to them to work for what's best for Iowa. And what's best for Iowa is to get President Trump to fulfill his pledge to allow E15 year round. And certainly we need to, there needs to be a sense of urgency with the trade talks with China.
Absolutely.
Soybean people are not happy, and I don't blame them a bit. I mean, they went from how many million bushels exported to China to 0.
Well, and to your listeners' point out there regarding the soybeans, we are going to be having the largest carryover of soybeans, which means from last year's production to this year's movement of soybeans, what do you have at the end of the balance sheet year, which really ends on September 30th. But our exports of soybeans have been lagging all year because of this. South America, Argentina. They have been picking up those markets. And we've spent a lot of years as commodity organizations on trade missions around the world, building those relationships, building those efforts to ensure that we have a good quality product, be that pork or beef or dairy products, poultry products, or the grains in this case that we're talking about. And that anytime you lose on the quality aspect or the reliability aspect, then they tend to go somewhere else. And the Canadians to the north of us, they've picked up a lot of the pork sales that we have lost into Japan when Canada signed on the TPP and the United States did not. And hopefully the administration will have a bilateral agreement. But when it comes to our newly elected congressional people, the two ladies from Northeast Iowa, Southwest Iowa, they represent a lot of agriculture.
Yeah.
They
Yes,
represent
they
a
do.
lot of agriculture production and processing. And so it's a big deal in the agriculture world of the impact that it could have and their leadership. And we encourage them to step up with leadership and encourage the House representatives to pass the USMCA so that we can ensure to our Mexico and Canada friends that what we're trying to do is remove these trade barriers to reduce the implications on uncompetitiveness in the marketplace of our food products so that we can compete on a world market and we can move more products.
We need our congressional delegation to focus on the economy and the ag economy. It's what drives us here in this part of the state and most of the state of Iowa. Maybe down in Polk County, the insurance business is still number one there. But I don't think the ag economy and advocating for the ag economy is a gender-based or race-based or any kind of based issue. I think all of us in Iowa should be working assiduously towards those goals to improve the ag economy, because when we do that, we're all going to be better off.
Well, we know right now there's a lot of people that spend their daily efforts on this. We have people within the Growth Alliance here and the regional economic areas, county supervisors that are on various committees for regional economic development and having some forward-thinking opportunities and vision, lay out a structure by which we can all benefit from. And as you benefit from private industry investment, be that in housing or processing, that we then benefit on taxes, the property taxes and the sales tax that comes in to our local areas and to our counties. And that's based on what the consumer is willing to pay for. And we know that there's no taxes on food. So your primary food items, there's no tax on the primary food items when you go to the grocery store. Now, if it's a non-food item, there is a tax on that. But those are things that help drive what happens in communities based on what consumers are buying. So hopefully we'll have that continued structure. And as we said at the first segment, with the governor's address today, which I think she laid out some plans and some vision that the legislature can embark upon. And hopefully that we'll be able to see that filter down to our communities with a vision and plans also.
What is the price of pork right now?
So we look at what's happening with price of pork regards the hundredweight. So pigs are sold on a carcass weight. And so right now, carcass weight's around that $125 to $130 a pig. And so cost of production right now is around that $140, $150 a pig. Soybean meal has held pretty strong because there's a strong demand of meal around the world. And here in the United States with poultry and pork production. So we have some red ink right now in the pork industry because a couple factors. Number one, our sales are lagging. Number two, we continue to expand not only at the sow herd a little bit. 2% was the USDA report out back in December there. And so we have a little bit of expansion of the sow herd, but we also have some improved efficiencies. So we have more productivity of pigs born alive. The weights of pigs, the selling weights of pigs, et cetera, is improved because of feeding efficiency and technology of our buildings.
Explain carcass weight. What does carcass weight look like?
So the carcass weight means if you're selling a 280-pound pig, they will normally yield, when you take away all the soft organs or the non-meat issues that we as Americans don't consume, you have a yield of about 75% of the weight, which is about 210 pounds right now, is what the carcass weight is. And that's how hogs and cattle are graded and sold on different premium grade quality factors. And that's what it's happening all around the world. And I've been fortunate to be in slaughter facilities in South Korea, in Japan, in China, to see how these other countries do something similar that we do in the United States with USDA inspectors, the Animal Plant Inspection Service, or APHIS, very highly regulated aspects for food production, which goes into some of those discussions right now about the government shutdown. The APHIS people and USDA inspectors are essential workers. So that's the food production system. And we're getting a little bit leery of that because we sure cannot have a backlog of our food supply chain, because we have some just-in-time delivery needs and we have some just-in-time customers that we have to continue to fulfill our commitments on. So once again, most of our ag organizations are continuing to impress upon the Trump administration for the good of the consumers here in the United States that have some of the least cost food of any place in the world, that we can move these negotiations along and get some settlements to the current government shutdown.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to do that.
We do. And right now the dairy...
Again, we need to stop all this fighting and get something done, for God's sake.
Yeah, the dairy sector has been hurting recently with a lot of economic losses. The egg industry continues to have tremendous output here, and Iowa's the number one state in the nation for egg production. And a lot of that is based within 60 miles northeast of here primarily. We have a lot of areas of the state that have poultry production, turkey production, but we continue to use our grains that we have here in the United States because we produce abundantly, and we need to further process those. And you've had a lot of speakers on prior to me being on your station now for about 3 years.
Have you been coming in here
3
3
years?
years?
It's been 3 years. It's amazing, isn't it?
No kidding.
Yeah. I can't believe you've been on the air this long, but
I can't either.
I'm just reciting what I hear around town.
There's a lot of people that are just as soon I wasn't.
About Divine in that many years. But
yeah, 10 years.
Yep. So, it's interesting opportunities. And I think as I share with people, and I was in some meetings just yesterday out of the state, talking with pork producers about some items that what's going on in Iowa and processing. And one of the folks that I spoke with in North Carolina, speaking about the pork industry out there, and I was in this station last year when they had the plant shut down because of the hurricanes, and a lot of devastation that is still being cleaned up from out there with the businesses and homes and citizens. And I just heard this yesterday from a couple men from North Carolina. But the Seaboard plant and production that happens out there, there's a lot of production on the East Coast, but also the Smithfield plant in Tar Heel, North Carolina, is where the big Smithfield plant is. And they're processing 32,000 pigs per day there now. And they also have another plant that's in North Carolina, Smithfield does, that is producing about 7,500, I believe. So
wow.
40,000 pigs a day in 2 plants. And they continue to have a lot of market demand on that East Coast with pork and pork processing, and also some exporting off the East Coast.
I don't care. I still think our pork here in the Midwest and in Iowa especially is a lot better. I lived in North Carolina a couple of years. I did.
Yeah.
And they must do something a little bit different because
pork. Yep, good point. And that's one of the things as I close here. We talk about the Iowa Pork Congress next week, and we'll have about 5,000 people come down to not only the trade show but the seminars. And part of our seminar series is about pork quality and how do we provide not only a safe and affordable product but nutritious. How do we provide things with different genetics and different fat content, leanness content, and how we prepare that food. So there's a lot that goes on there. And any of your listeners, once again, I shamelessly put out there the iowapork.org website has website information regarding cooking temperature and recipes and things of the industry from not only a producer level, but the consumer level. And the consumers are really what drives the demand for pork here in the United States. And the consumers around the world drive the demand for why we continue to have not only additional packing and processing facilities in Iowa, but why we have additional growth of the pig industry in Iowa.
Bill Horn spent about a year convincing me of all of these positive things, and why pork was important to China. And really, I think I'm going to give Bill a lot of credit. I think he kind of turned the tide on the Iowa Crossroads of Global Innovation. As you recall, not everybody was thrilled with the city of Fort Dodge being involved there. But he patiently explained over and over and over again why these things were important, why the Iowa Crossroads of Global Innovation was important, why pork production was important and valuable to the Chinese. And somebody has to step up and do that with housing.
Well, we know because out at the Crossroads of Global Innovation, as recall, in the early 2000s, we had 2 other plants that were named out there that are currently not there.
Yeah.
And that was Verasun, which is now the Valero organization bought them out. And the previous builder of the current Cargill plant was Tate and Lyle.
Yeah.
And those 2 companies, they had some structural changes and they had some financial changes and some probably leadership changes. And so, these things come around, but you're exactly right. From the vision that Bill has made reference to over 5 or 6 years ago, talking about these things. And we were talking about the implementation of American consumers utilizing 10% corn ethanol in the gasoline. Well, now we know in the year 2018, China has come out and said that in the next 5 years, they want to phase in that 10% ethanol will be used by all the 1.3 billion Chinese in their auto industry. And that is a huge number. And just to let your listeners know, as we close at the bottom of the hour, the reason these things are impactful because right now is some of the largest disease outbreak in China that we've ever seen, and that's with the African swine fever. And our pig market futures for this summer have not totally reflected that yet because there's still some opportunity and optimism that U.S. pork producers may have more market sales into China if we settle these tariffs and these trade issues, these retaliation issues that we're dealing with right now. But right now, the Chinese pig herd is being put down or is being quarantined and is being slaughtered because of a disease outbreak that is pretty inflammatory across their country. And we are taking great strides in this country to make sure that we don't see that here on U.S. soils.
Greg, thank you very much. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Pork Producers. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Do you ever get tired of watching bad things happen to people?
Sticking up for you when no one else will.
All right, it's exactly 4:30. The news and Danson David Fierger next.
Party with a Purpose, Saturday, March 2nd, during the 22nd Annual Sweetheart Gala. Imagine a world without heart disease or stroke. That's the driving mission of the American Heart Association. I'm Abigail Johnson, inviting you to join us at the Best Western Starlight Village. Social hour begins at 6. There'll be a silent and live auction, a DJ, and delicious dessert buffet and meal. Tickets are just $50 each. Come dance the night away at the 22nd Annual Sweetheart Gala, Saturday night, March 2nd, at the Best Western Starlight Village in Fort Dodge.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa's economy is soaring, but lawmakers have work to do to ensure struggling Iowans find success, including Iowans with a criminal record. Radio Iowa's OK Henderson reports.
Reynolds delivered the annual Condition of the State message to lawmakers today. She asked them to set the wheels in motion so Iowa voters can pass a constitutional amendment so a felon's voting rights are automatically restored when a felon completes their sentence. Under current practice, felons who've done their time and paid their fines must apply to the governor to have their voting rights restored. Making this change is all about second chances, the governor said. Reynolds also touted creation of a new program at the state's medium security prison in Newton. Inmates would learn construction skills there by building houses that will be trucked out to rural communities. Go to radioiowa.com to learn more about the governor's 2019 legislative agenda. It includes her call for an $89 million increase in state support of K-12 public schools. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says it's no surprise fellow Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King is being punished for his comments about white supremacy. Grassley notes Republican House leaders have stripped King of his committee assignments, and some Democrats are calling for King's censure.
That's entirely within the view of the House of Representatives. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, I've seen that sort of punishment done by the House, both censure as well as being deprived of committee.
On Monday, King was removed from 3 panels, the Agriculture and Small Business Committees, as well as the powerful Judiciary Committee. Grassley says he understands the actions of House GOP leaders who say King's remarks won't be tolerated.
I'll have to accept their judgment on it. I don't disagree with their judgment, and I'm not surprised that House Republicans took this step. It's happened in the past when I was a member of the House because a particular member dishonors the chamber.
King says his comments were completely mischaracterized and that booting him from the committees is a political decision that ignores the truth. Yet Grassley and other Republicans are distancing themselves from King.
Under our Constitution, I have to respect their decision, and I strongly disagree with any comments supporting white supremacy. It's offensive, and it's not a view that I hold.
Grassley says while King won't be able to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District in committee action, he'll still be able to voice opinions on any issues that come from those committees when they go before the full House for a vote. A plan that would have built high-end apartments in Fort Dodge was defeated on Monday after heavy disapproval of the project by community members. Only 2 of the 7 council members voted to approve the housing project led by KDG LLC of Columbia, Missouri, that would have built apartments along North 32nd Street. The apartments would have had 108 units to start with, and they would have been priced between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. Council members Nevin Conrad and Lydia Scher voted yes on the project. Council members Dave Flattery, Kim Allstott, Jeff Halter, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voted no. About 100 Fort Dodge residents were at the meeting that opposed the project, and many property owners living within 200 feet of the proposed construction area signed a petition against it. In local sports, St. Edmund basketball hosts Hampton Dumont tonight with radio coverage of the girls' game at 6:15 and the boys following at 7:45 on Sunny 99.7. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 35. Southwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies tonight, lows level off around 18. High of 28 tomorrow. Chance for snow Thursday and Friday. Upper 20s Thursday, upper teens by Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 34.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down 7 1/4 at 371 1/4. May down 7 1/4 at 379 3/4. July down 7 1/4 cents at 387 1/2. September down 6 1/2 at 391 1/2. March soybeans down 10 1/4 at 893 1/4. May down 10 1/2 at 906 3/4. July beans down 10 1/4 at 919 3/4. August down a dime at 925 1/4. March wheat closed down 3 1/4 at 511. Soybean meal down $2.50 a ton at 309.30. February live cattle up 152 at 126.95. April up 75 at 127.42. January feeder cattle down a dime at 144.75. March up 35 cents at 144.75. February lean hogs up 30 cents at 62.15. April up 12 at 66.95. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Mark Patrick Hypnosis is coming to Fort Dodge on February 6th for one day only. Lose weight or stop smoking now through hypnosis. Join over 500,000 people who have stopped smoking and lost weight the Mark Patrick way. The Weight Loss Hypnosis Seminar is Wednesday, February 6th from 5:30 till 7:30 p.m. The Stop Smoking Hypnosis Seminar is from 8 till 10 p.m. Both are at the Quality Inn and Suites on Highway 169 South, Fort Dodge. Registration starts 30 minutes prior to the sessions. Seating is limited, so get there early to reserve your spot. Attend these life-changing programs for only $49.99 and learn how the power of hypnosis can help you achieve your goal to lose weight or stop smoking without any willpower. 100% guaranteed. So whether you need to lose weight or want to stop smoking, join Mark Patrick Hypnosis Wednesday, February 6th at the Quality Inn and Suites on Highway 169 South, Fort Dodge. Doors open 30 minutes prior to seminars. For more information, go to markpatrickseminars.com.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
I don't understand what is preventing you from laughing this off and giving me a big hug.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. You recognize that voice, of course. I don't understand what's preventing you from just laughing this off and giving me a big hug. That's Steve Carell, of course, from the great TV series of about 10 years ago, The Office.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Yeah, I started to watch reruns of that again.
We actually used The Office in some harassment training we did at City Hall. And,
Really?
Yeah, of like what not to do.
Yeah. Well, a couple of people apparently banded together a few weeks ago and compared this radio station to The Office. And guess which character I got to be?
I don't never really watch that show that much. I don't know when it was on.
Dwayne, the Rainn Wilson character, the guy who parts his hair in the middle. And I should have been glad, I suppose, that they chose a character that had hair. That was Steve Carell. And Rainn Wilson and all those people were just terrific. Yeah. And it was a great. It was one of those things. I never watched Seinfeld when it was on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen most of the episodes now in reruns.
See, I was a little younger when Seinfeld was in first run.
In the 90s?
So I had more time to watch it.
Well, you were probably in college then. You're out partying,
didn't have kids yet.
Didn't have kids, right? Yeah. What year did you graduate from college?
91 with my, was it 91? 91 was my bachelor's, and
then you went to the undergraduate.
92 was my graduate degree.
So, and you were out there partying pretty good, I suppose.
I went to Western Illinois as a party school.
I'm just, that's Randy Kuhlman was assistant coach there at Western Illinois there for a while.
Yeah, he was gone. He was basketball coach. He was gone before I was
coach.
there.
Yeah, I know he was. Yeah, he was. He came on home, but I read a article in the paper not long ago that some of the smaller schools are having trouble, and Western Illinois was one of the schools that was having some trouble keeping afloat.
Well, it's Illinois. The whole state's having trouble keeping afloat.
Well, that's a point.
I think the state's been cutting funding to I haven't paid too close attention. I'm part, I get the Alumni Association stuff, and I think they've been talking about cutting back and things like that. State funding been cut.
Well, they just elected a new governor. We'll see what happens. But that's Illinois' business. I'm not in the business of telling other states how they should run their business.
Well, they get me on my soapbox here. I'm born and raised in Illinois, but been gone, thankfully, now 13 years.
Why thankfully?
Well, I love Iowa. No, I'm glad I'm out of Illinois. The problems
probably didn't improve the weather any.
Well, the problem with Illinois is its problems are created by its people. It's got the awesome geographic location. It's the center of the country. It's got all sorts of transportation. It's got all sorts of population base, all sorts of jobs, all sorts of industry. There's no reason they should be having trouble. It's the people can't figure it out. And the neat thing about Iowa is I remember came here and Iowa had trouble in 08, 09, and the leaders figured it out, solved the problems.
Yeah, they did. Illinois Illinois has been a solidly Democratic state for a long time, and the problems you get sometimes where you have politicians who promise everything and then try to deliver it and they can't.
Yeah.
That apparently what's happened with Illinois. I know they have a terrible problem with their public, especially their teacher retirement fund, keeping it afloat. Frankly, we don't have that problem here, by the way. IPERS in Iowa is pretty good, from what I understand.
IPERS is one of the strongest public pension funds in the country.
Do you have IPERS?
No, I am not on IPERS.
Why? So. Because you're management or something? Or?
Yeah, when they created a city manager position, and in Iowa, for that position, IPERS communities are allowed to opt out the city manager position, which kind of makes sense because you don't know for sure how long your manager is going to last, and unless you get vested in IPERS, it actually is a little bit punitive if somebody pays into it and then leaves.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I was in Illinois, I never got vested in a pension system because my first city was small and didn't participate in the Illinois pension.
What was your first city?
Savoy, Illinois.
Savoy.
The second city, Richmond Park, did participate, and I paid, I don't know, I think it was 5% or more. I can't remember how much of my wages the city put in their wages. I left 4 years later to come here. It took 7 years to get vested. So the money the city had put in for my wages was gone into the pension fund, and nobody benefited from that other than just the pension fund. I didn't get it back, and neither did the city. So one of the things here was to not have the city manager be an IPERS and just have him be in like a private. It's a 457 and 401 plans.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have something like that?
Yeah.
As a man, okay. This has nothing to do with David Fierig being here, Dancing David, at all. But I watched a little bit of the guy. I wasn't able to catch all the governor's speech. I have since read all of Governor Reynolds' speech. Judge me as you will, but I'm sitting there looking at Governor Reynolds. I'm thinking to myself, we have the best looking governor in the United States of America. Oh, now don't tell. Why can't I say that? I mean, you've grown like I'm about.
You're going to objectify our governor now?
I'm going to note that she's pretty hot. Okay.
Oh, it's just going downhill.
She's in her 50s. I mean, looking around at some of the other governors. Who's the governor of Illinois right now?
I don't even know or care to know.
Minnesota used to have Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah.
There was a nice choice.
No, he probably was the most talkative governor.
Jesse the Body?
Oh, he could talk up a storm.
Oh, he could. He was, I knew him when he was, I first was aware of him when he was a wrestler. We're about the same age. I think he and I are the same age. There were little wrestling shows. They'd come around and Jesse the Body come on. And
see, I remember when
he was impressive to look at, I'll tell you.
Yeah, when I was coming of age and watching wrestling, he was a commentator. Him and Vince McMahon.
Him and Vince, yeah. Jesse the Body. Jesse the Body. But I'll tell you, when we were young men, Jesse would get in the ring. He was
a big dude.
He had an Arnold Schwarzenegger thing going on there. I mean, he was a big, muscular looking guy. And can't believe he was governor of Minnesota. But
Arnold was the governor of California.
Arnold, God. Steve Bannon, who all the liberals hate, of course, an advisor to President Trump, and probably was the man most responsible for electing President Trump in a lot of ways. He has said that we have turned a corner, and in the future, we're going to have people like Oprah Winfrey running for president and winning, celebrity type people who are great communicators. And that may be, that's kind of frightening,
what else is Donald Trump? I'm not getting into the political ring, but is he just pretty much a celebrity and good communicator?
That's exactly what he is. That's the point Bannon was making, that this is who Trump is. And the Democrats are going to have to come up with somebody like him from their position because, Trump essentially beat Hillary Clinton because she was boring and he wasn't, not because it didn't come down to who was most qualified or who was the most intelligent or who was the most hardworking or anything. If it was, it might have gone the other way. But people didn't trust Hillary Clinton and they liked Donald Trump better, or at least they like his show, his act. So that's what we're going to see in the future. And I saw Senator Elizabeth Warren. Here we are going down the political track. I saw Senator Elizabeth Warren, who was in Iowa recently, and I'm a fan of hers. But she doesn't have that electricity. Has nothing to do with her being a woman. That Alexa Ocasio-Cortez, very young and attractive woman, who was elected in New York. I think she is the future of the Democratic Party. I mean, she's got, I don't care. You have to be a good looking person to run for president of the United States. Obama was, George W. was not offensive. Bill Clinton was, Ronald Reagan. We're past the time in our history when somebody like Lyndon Johnson can be elected president because he didn't look good on TV. That's why I'm on radio, as a matter of fact.
that's why you have me on radio. If this was a TV show, I wouldn't be here.
Anyway, enough of that.
I don't know. For guys like us who go with a natural hairstyle, I would consider Trump's hairstyle pretty offensive.
Yeah, that's just gross. I suppose I could do that outrageous comb over, but why would I want to?
That's an amazing comb over.
Face reality. Get on with it. Be comfortable with who you are. I mean, forgot. And then he's always been in a tanning bed. He's always got those raccoon eyes because here's a 72-year-old man, and he's in the tanning bed and he's the president of the United States, for God's sake.
Just go natural. Cut it off.
Just go, man. Yeah. Go natural. Go natural. I don't mean God telling him that he'd probably be in the nude somewhere. We don't want to see that either. Believe me, we don't want to see that at all. Anyway, David Fierig is our guest. He's city manager of the city of Fort Dodge. What's going on in the city there, David?
We're talking everything non-city.
Well, we're just babbling here, so let's go with it. What else are we doing here?
Well, I mean, I know Alex has reported on our meeting last night, which you did not attend. Very important meeting. And
Alex didn't attend.
Well, no, I don't even know if Alex was there. You weren't there.
Oh, I didn't attend. What have you been talking to Menke? He's always giving me that nonsense.
Well, I mean, we had that rezoning that the council voted down was on last night at the housing.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is worth reiterating, and I know all or many of the council members did state this, but I think it's worth stating again, is that we really need a housing project like
Well,
this.
what's the problem then, council? Vote this forward and let's move
I mean,
forward.
they chose not to vote this one because, of the reaction of the neighbors and other reasons given, but there were some discussions out there, not amongst the council, but mentioned at the meeting and other places that this type of housing is not necessary. And folks, it is necessary. It is. We do not have apartment complexes that somebody who's coming from another part of the country who's unfamiliar with Fort Dodge is going to readily find and say, hey, here's a place I want to live. And I've done this for a number of reasons, for different employees or other folks looking for apartments. I usually use my own personal contacts to say, okay, where do you have a good place? Now I've been here 13 years. I know where places are, who has places to rent, and use those contacts. Well, someone who doesn't know anybody, just, a Cargill employee coming from Dayton here doesn't have those contacts to help find them a good place. They're looking for, where's the apartment complex? Where's the place that I want to live? The place they're used to having in other areas. And we really
Where do you go dancing?
Yeah, go dancing. Well, I don't dance.
You don't dance? Okay.
That's ironic calling me Dancing Dave when I don't dance. So we're going to keep working on it, working hard. It's too early to say whether this current developer is going to try to seek out a different location. We have other apartment developers that we've been talking to, so we'll continue to work it. I mean, we're not going to propose this site, obviously. And it's not up to us, really. It's up to, the applicant and the property owner to come to some deal and then make a proposal on a site.
Well, I talked with Greg Hora about this in the last hour. It's not that I don't understand these folks' point of view, but I'm getting a little frustrated. I mean, all I hear is that we need new housing. We need apartments like this. We need condos. We need different types of housing. Okay, we have people coming to our town who want to do that. And it goes before the council and it's defeated because the neighbors don't like it, or for one reason or another, usually traffic or on and on and on, or maybe they're from Central America. We don't want those people in our neighborhood. I mean, on and on and on and on. Come on. If we need this, we need somebody to convince the public that this is the case. We need the council people to step up and convince our community that housing stock is needed. It's in the vital interest of our community, and let's get it going here. The question we need to ask ourselves, all of us, is what kind of community do we want? What's this town supposed to look like in 10 years? The same? I mean,
we want it to grow.
That's right. That's the question, because as you know, there's cities aren't static. They're either going to go they're going to go forward or they're going to go backward. We keep going backward here.
Well, interesting statistic. The Growth Alliance last year put out a number that said that we had added 1,800 new jobs since 2011. So that's 1,800. And so those are going to be decent paying jobs. That's not just any old job. That's a decent paying job. But then, and I don't, we won't know until after the next census, but, estimates are that our population is not growing. So what's happening? Those jobs, people aren't living in Fort Dodge.
That's what it is.
And then, so, when you recruit a job, what's good to the community is the payroll, the taxes through other incentives. Usually you don't get property taxes off the property for probably a decade or more. There could be some sales tax. There's some spinoff work, obviously, to contractors and other subcontractors, but the real economic benefit for the community is the payroll. So letting the payroll go to other communities just because of housing, like Ames or other places, is a huge loss.
Yes, it is.
It's a loss to our overall economy. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to keep that payroll in town as much as possible.
And we're not doing it, are we?
I think we can do better. I think more housing will help us do a lot better. And then, one of the thoughts is, well, you need to bring in retail too. Well, retail follows housing. Retail follows rooftops. That's what retailers look for. What's your rooftops? What's your demographics within 5 miles, 10 miles of this location? If the housing's not there, the retail's not going to be there.
It stands to reason, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
See, we had a good bite with some people from Tennessee to do something about the Crossroads Mall. And believe me, the Crossroads Mall needs help. but it didn't work out. It all fell to pieces, and there the mall sits in bad need of help.
Mhm.
What are we doing here? I mean, if the council is going to vote these things down, then it's incumbent on the council to think of different solutions and to make the case in the community. Show a little leadership, leadership.
Well, and we'll do that. We'll find, we'll work on some other locations. We had a meeting, kind of a debrief meeting today, now with council, with staff, and say, okay, well, let's talk about some other potential locations and what would it take to get a development there. I can tell you that this firm looked at a couple other sites, neither of which they were able to get a what I would call well, in their terms, a feasible deal, a feasible acquisition deal done, and so that's why they chose this site. So I don't know where it fell on our ranking of. I don't think it was their first choice, but I think it might have been their second, third, fourth. I don't know for sure, but
yeah,
I know it wasn't their first choice.
Well, somebody, I'm looking now to the council for leadership on this. Again, you can't just respond to. I mean, let me be clear on what I'm saying here. You cannot just respond to the neighbors, because there's always going to be a group of neighbors, no matter where we put any sort of development like this in our town, that are going to complain, and they're going to have reasons. I mean, the traffic problem, drugs, God, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, and some of the things and concerns raised are going to be legitimate, and some are not. But we need to have a consensus on the council to take up this issue of housing and to sell it to the public and to convince them, not just show up every now and then. This has to be a long going and continuing process. And again, I'm looking at the council to do this. We'll see if any of them follow through. Mayor Bemrick's always got a full plate, but
well, I mean, it's something to work on. The tricky thing is, for that leadership may require public dollars. If we end up with a gap between what it takes to get the project and what it's going to take to make it a feasible project, that gets tricky, especially with a brand new development like that. I mean, at some point, you got to be a little careful how you use those dollars. You're not creating unlevel playing fields or using dollars where maybe you shouldn't. So it's not an easy thing. It could be additional education. I think that could be more helpful on just the point that, hey, this is necessary and for the good of our community. Now, does that stop the people that live across the street from not wanting it there, saying, yeah, we agree, we want it somewhere, we just don't want it across the street from us? I mean, that's right or wrong, this is all part of a democratic process, and this is why it is done the way it is, and that's why your elected officials get to be the final decision, because they're
that's right and
representative.
correct.
They're representatives of the people. And
Yes, they are.
I mean, it's not just left to bureaucrats to crunch numbers and
No, we
do their
create
own
boards.
do
We
their own-
create unaccountable boards
do
to
their
do
own
the dirty
sterile
work.
evaluations, and then people feel wronged in it. So, yeah, that's what it is. It's just it's democracy.
Is that what it is? Democracy in action.
Sometimes messy.
Yeah.
Seldomly efficient.
it's usually messy. I don't. Well, we just need productivity. We need a sense of moving forward.
Yeah.
We don't need any more boards, for God's sake. We need leadership from somewhere to carry this issue forward. Are you going to do it, David? Are you going to be the leader? Are you going to take up the sword, David?
Staff does what we do on our end, and
Retail
that is-
follows rooftops.
That's true.
All right. Yeah, it is. That's good. You don't mind if I use that, do you? I mean, that's
yeah.
I'll use
sure.
it. I'll beat it to death. But it is a question. What sort of town do we want Fort Dodge to be? Are we going to go back to the arguments over let's have golf carts up and down Central Avenue or something? I mean, really? I mean, we had the infrastructure's here. We made the commitment, and now we don't want to have housing. What the hell are we doing here?
Well, we want to have housing. I mean, I don't think you'll
But
find
not if it
elected
blocks
officials.
the sunrise on the east side of town, or what?
Nobody used that as a reason why.
Well, I was being a little sarcastic there.
We want the rooftops. I just want to make sure. And again, this isn't to lecture the city council, because they all know this. It's just a matter of I want the opportunity for your listeners to realize that it is very important. There's an economic benefit to having multifamily housing in this community and having high quality multifamily housing.
When we were working on that crosstown connector, I had a parade of council people and everybody else on this radio station talking about the need for a crosstown connector. This is every bit as important. Of course, a couple of the councilmen still have hurt feelings. I did something to them, called them stupid or something. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did to them. I really don't. I don't know. But if they don't want to be on this radio station, fine. Find yourself another outlet and make the case lead a little bit. Anyway.
So, yeah, and that was an important project too. And we're seeing results of the crosstown connector. I mean, we're still investing in it. We're going to spend a lot of money next year on the 15th Street intersection and the crosstown connector and make that run smoothly.
Yeah, we've completely redone the crossroads area. The flooding problem out there has gone away. We have it's easy for traffic, much easier for traffic to move there. We just need kind of a retail center out there.
Now we need now we need more shops.
Yes, we need a actual retail center.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why people get such a satisfaction out of stopping something. Build something. Move something forward. So, you going dancing tonight or?
No, I'm not going dancing.
Not going down the shiny top and boogie.
Do they have dancing there?
I don't know. I just thought that it would be spontaneous with you, but apparently not. All right. Is there anything else we're missing here, David?
Gosh.
He's since I've started to go down this path, he's kind of watching me very carefully.
You always ask me a question. Anything else out there?
No. Okay. Well, we're good. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
David Feerick has been our guest 5:00 in the afternoon. This is KVFD Fort Dodge, Iowa. Thank you for listening.
If you're into cars or just want to learn a thing or two, tune in every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 for the Under the Hood Car Show on AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa's economy is soaring, but lawmakers have work to do to ensure struggling Iowans find success, including Iowans with a criminal record. Radio Iowa's OK Henderson reports.
Reynolds delivered the annual Condition of the State message to lawmakers today. She asked them to set the wheels in motion so Iowa voters can pass a constitutional amendment so a felon's voting rights are automatically restored when a felon completes their sentence. Under current practice, felons who've done their time and paid their fines must apply to the governor to have their voting rights restored. Making this change is all about second chances, the governor said. Reynolds also touted creation of a new program at the state's medium security prison in Newton. Inmates would learn construction skills there by building houses that will be trucked out to rural communities. Go to radioiowa.com to learn more about the governor's 2019 legislative agenda. It includes her call for an $89 million increase in state support of K-12 public schools. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says it's no surprise fellow Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King is being punished for his comments about white supremacy. Grassley notes Republican House leaders have stripped King of his committee assignments, and some Democrats are calling for King's censure.
That's entirely within the view of the House of Representatives. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, I've seen that sort of punishment done by the House, both censure as well as being deprived of committee.
On Monday, King was removed from 3 panels, the Agriculture and Small Business Committees, as well as the powerful Judiciary Committee. Grassley says he understands the actions of House GOP leaders who say King's remarks won't be tolerated.
I'll have to accept their judgment on it. I don't disagree with their judgment, and I'm not surprised that House Republicans took this step. It's happened in the past when I was a member of the House because a particular member dishonors the chamber.
King says his comments were completely mischaracterized and that booting him from the committees is a political decision that ignores the truth. Yet Grassley and other Republicans are distancing themselves from King.
Under our Constitution, I have to respect their decision, and I strongly disagree with any comments supporting white supremacy. It's offensive, and it's not a view that I hold.
Grassley says while King won't be able to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District in committee action, he'll still be able to voice opinions on any issues that come from those committees when they go before the full House for a vote. A plan that would have built high-end apartments in Fort Dodge was defeated on Monday after heavy disapproval of the project by community members. Only 2 of the 7 council members voted to approve the housing project led by KDG LLC of Columbia, Missouri, that would have built apartments along North 32nd Street. The apartments would have had 108 units to start with, and they would have been priced between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. Council members Nevin Conrad and Lydia Scher voted yes on the project. Council members Dave Flattery, Kim Allstott, Jeff Halter, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voted no. About 100 Fort Dodge residents were at the meeting that opposed the project, and many property owners living within 200 feet of the proposed construction area signed a petition against it. In local sports, St. Edmund basketball hosts Hampton Dumont tonight with radio coverage of the girls' game at 6:15 and the boys following at 7:45 on Sunny 99.7. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Lows dip down to about 17 tonight under overcast skies. Northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Daytime highs approaching 28. Tomorrow, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Chance for snow tomorrow night. Lows around 20. Cloudy skies. 1 to 3 inches of snow Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm staff meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
Radio Iowa News is presented by the Iowa Department of Public Safety Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau. For 2019, make the resolution to keep yourself and others safe by always driving sober.
I'm Pat Curtis. In her Condition of the State address today, Governor Kim Reynolds proposed a 2.3% increase in general state aid to public schools. Senate President Charles Snyder, a Republican from West Des Moines, says that shows education is a top priority.
She makes a valid point, too, about the restoration of felon voting rights and putting that issue before the voters.
But House Democratic leader Todd Pritchard of Charles City says the governor could issue an executive order that would immediately restore voting rights to felons who've done their time, rather than waiting for the lengthy process of amending the state constitution. And Pritchard suggests Iowa schools should get at least a 3% boost in state aid.
We've underfunded education dramatically in the years past.
This is Radio Iowa.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm a teacher.